Hello everyone, welcome to What If Quirkless Deku joins League of Villains and becomes Immortal Part 1. Before we start, please go support Shadow Draco Zero for writing that awesome fanfic. All Izuku wanted to be was a hero. A hero who could save others. A hero who didn't have a quirk. No one believed him. His mother, his friend, but the last straw his hero. No one knew that someone like him was important to both heroes and villains. Only now villains have found his importance first. Prologue. Part 1. You can't be a hero. That is all Izuku could hear. Everything after that began with nothing but pure buzzing. He watched as the number one hero left the rooftop, leaving him alone. The young teen could just leave the rooftop, but in truth, he didn't feel like he could leave now. Everything was telling him to remain within the roof. He looked at his journal, seeing everything which he wrote down. All the information about the quirks and their heroes. He looked at the autograph given to him by the hero, one of the greatest heroes in existence. As he looked at it, he couldn't believe it after what he heard. Everything after the signature wasn't favorable to him. And worse, it came from the hero that he idolized, the hero of the greatest society. Before he heard that the young boy wished that the response would be different. You could be a hero, the phrase which would be wanted. The green-haired boy couldn't believe it. No one believed in him, not his friends, not his mom, not even his hero. They all don't believe in him, and all might be the final straw. Beginning with that doctor meeting, losing faith in everyone around him, and it was his hero who broke his dream. Jump off a rooftop, maybe you'll get a quirk in your next life. A phrase is given to him by who he saw as his best friend. A best friend who didn't even believe in him, only saw him as an inferior life form that would be useless. He even called him that Deku. He was nothing but a useless boy who wasn't even liked by anyone. Everyone he had met didn't like him upon finding out he was quirkless. Within a world which was 80% of a quirk population, with a low percentage which will continue to decrease further and further with time. Soon Deku knew that quirks would be given to everyone, except he wasn't born at that time. Thinking back to the phrase which was given to him, he wondered if he should jump. He sometimes wonders what would have happened if he did it someday. Who would miss him? His mother definitely, but aside from her, who else? Bakugo always told him to do it. Kaken even burned his hero journal. So why not do it? Why not end his life? His hero already left him in the building before he left. So he was nearly half done. He was on top of a building. He had his journal on him. He even believed in contacting his mom to leave a final call. He didn't want her to worry. So he would do it first. Besides, even if he did or didn't call her, she would learn much. Someone would quickly tell her after his body was discovered. The only one who truly cared about her. There were tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, Mom. He held his journal in his hand and took a step off. The only issue was that he didn't pass so easily. He could feel the air and quickly fell to the concrete, falling to the hard wall. His body quickly fell warm, telling him what was occurring. Deku could feel his body was struggling to remain alive. That is something human bodies desire, to remain alive. He wished it would be quick, but he didn't like what was occurring within his own body. And with that, he saw someone walk near him, taking the journal on the floor. The figure then looked at the young teen. He could notice that he was weirdly unseeable but shadowy. He didn't know what was occurring within the mind of this figure, but he saw as he opened the journal and began to read the book. And with that, Izuku fell into unconsciousness before he could see next. The League of Villains. Are you sure this is his? Of course, Shigaraki, he had it with him, and it looks personal. So you want to keep him? He could be of great importance, Shigaraki. That is all Izuku felt at that moment. Knowing what he felt, he could still hear what was happening around him, and soon he knew that he needed to know where he was. When he opened his eyes, he was on a couch in what seemed like a rundown old bar. He thought that he would accomplish his death, but instead, he survived. He was broken. He can't even die right. The moment that he woke up, he saw two people in front of him. One of them was a nicely suited man, but with what Izuku assumed was a quirk that resulted in him having a purple mist-like body, and a young man only a few years older than Izuku wearing a blue hoodie. He could see that the older figure was the one who discovered him, and he guessed that he brought him here to ensure he was safe. Why he would save him made him question why he would save him. 1.5 hours. The green teen raised his head in confusion to this. What? The shadowy figure sighed. The amount of time you were out, 1.5 hours time in which you were out, no permanent damage has occurred, we had you healed by a friend. He was confused when he saw them, but then the hooded figure was walking towards him carrying something. It was his hero journal. Deku could sense fear the closer the hooded figure neared him. From that moment on, the hooded man asked, "This is yours, right?" He handed Izuku his notebook with all the hero information he recorded back to him and continued speaking. "Yes." The hooded figure then looked confused. From that response, he began to scratch his own neck, processing this as well as thinking about the actions of what this boy had done. Why would someone with this notebook decide to end their life? Izuku could see in his eyes that it was a question he did not ask anyone, but he guessed due to the inside of his journal it would spark thoughts on others. He didn't know why, but he felt like answering the question he asked as he felt a sense of similarity between them. I wanted to be a hero, but someone like me can't be a hero. I'm quirkless. Izuku was nearly brought to tears but then furthered his answer. Everyone didn't believe in me, my mom, my friend, I even asked the greatest hero, but even he didn't believe in me. The hooded mask sat on a nearby chair thinking of what he said, and without thinking he asked, "If you had a quirk, would you still be a hero?" Izuku stared at him. Could he have been a hero with a quirk? Yes, but in truth, it would only result in the same response. Only those with quirks could be heroes. Those without one would result in being nothing but pariahs within society. Everything was the same as what the number one hero said to him. The green teen knew his response. It would still prove his point. I can't be a hero without a quirk. Then why not be something else? The man then stood up from the chair and stared at him, pulling his hand out. This hero abandoned you, left you, didn't even rescue you. Well, that isn't what a hero is supposed to be now, is it? I am Tamura Shigaraki, and you could be something else. Knowing this individual, he feared what this could be, yet he felt as if rejecting him could leave him within a rock and a bigger rock. Accepting would be a better response to the question, yet that isn't the only reason for which he felt doing this. Izuku didn't know why, but he trusted him and saw his presence as a good thing, something which was warming him, like family, as well as giving him something which could help him. So in the end he agreed to be with him. Izuku agreed with him. Even though it hurts, he stood up, he still went for the hand, he agreed to something which he couldn't walk back on. A quirk for Izuku. Agreeing to the deal, the small green teenager began to stand up, feeling the pain within his own body, questioning what type of friend could heal him. He questioned what this option could be and what he could commence next within this job. Within the inside of the bar, a new portal was opened by who he learned was Kurojiri, the shadowy figure whose body truly was made out of a portal-making material. Learning of this, Izuku was taken to a room that he didn't recognize. This room was different from the bar, as he saw nothing but darkness. But within this darkness, he saw a man sitting in a chair attached to what looked like life support. Multiple tubes were attached to the figure's head, keeping him alive, yet he could see that this man had no eyes and a scarred head, yet someone the teen could know that he was being watched by this man. Shigaraki, my boy, who is this? His calm voice startled Izuku, since he could see that this man's face was destroyed. Sensei, I come to you so that you to introduce our newest member. Shigaraki moved to the side of the man. Izuku, this is all for one. Newest member, right? He did agree to be something new, yet he didn't know what he was a member of. Maybe learning about him would show him what he could be a member for. Furthermore, having a name such as All for One made the teen question who this man was, as that was a false name, one to hide his true identity. The man in the chair began to slowly kneel before the young scared teen wondered about him. Well, what do we have here? Hello boys, so you must be the one Shigaraki told me about. He has shown me those journals. You are very clever for your age. Thank you, Mr. All for One. Izuku stuttered as he spoke upon the man before him, shocked as he was both in awe and fear of him. Now why are you here? All for one asked, wondering why Shigaraki would bring Izuku to him. Shigaraki smiled. Well, sensei, I wanted to ask you to give him a quirk. Izuku was shocked to hear this. Being given a quirk sounds impossible, yet a quirk that could give quirks could be possible, but how? Thinking about how much time has evolved, a quirk like this could occur and happen within the years, yet why would this be found out now? The figure smiled, questioning the teen. Tell me, boy, you would desire a quirk? Izuku always wanted a quirk. This was his opportunity, yet he didn't know when he could get an opportunity like this again. This was his one chance, yes. A smile came to the leader. Very well, Izuku, my boy, what quirk would you want to have? Izuku couldn't believe what he was hearing, as it seemed impossible, yet here he was. I don't know, Mr. All for one, there are so many. I mean, what could you give? Do you have different types, unique types? As the green teen began to babble, the villainous leader began to laugh. Well, my boy, you seem to have great intellect, yet intellect can help you in certain situations. I know the perfect quirk for you. All for one stretched his arm toward Izuku, and then all the green-haired boy felt pain from there, after which he fell. Kurogiri, could you please take our guest to his new bedroom? All for one watched as Kurogiri picked up Izuku and portales him to a new room. Shigaraki then turned to his master, knowing that the two were alone. Sensei, if you don't mind me asking, what quirk did you give him? All for one grinned as he faced his successor. Well, I gave him two quirks, in reality. One is a simple regeneration quirk, since he seemed to need it to keep him alive. The second, a power-enhancing quirk to give him some power for his mind. For all for one, this boy would be a new pawn for Shigaraki to use, and someone who seems that could benefit the league greatly. All they needed to do was ensure he would remain loyal to them all. Learning the truth. Within the next few days, Izuku woke up to find himself back at the bar. He wondered what happened and why he was in a random room, and with that, he saw Kurogiri enter the room he was in. Izuku, you finally woke up, the shadowy figure explained. The green teen questioned what he means with that. What do you mean? You were out for a few days, he explained. The green teen looked shocked. What a few days? My mom, she would be extremely worried. She must have called the cops. Missing posters must be all around. Don't worry, young Midoriya, Kurogiri said, gaining the attention of the green teen. Master All for one had used his quirks and contact to ensure that you weren't missing. Your school believes you are sick, and your mother, let's say, she saw you within your house very often. Deku looked confused upon the remark. Before thinking about the quirks of AFO, he could have used them to hide his missing days. Kurogiri then neared the boy, placing his arm on his shoulder. Sorry about that, being given a quirk is quite painful. He knew the pain he felt meant that the shadowy man was telling the truth, yet he didn't know if it did occur. So it worked? Of course, it worked, young Midoriya. Sensei gave you two distinct quirks, a power enhancer and a regeneration. When he learned of his new quirks, Izuku got overjoyed at the topic which he heard. 2 quirks for the price of 1, a dream come true. He looked at himself and he knew that when the regeneration quirk kicked in, he would be able to walk from any injury. When he felt perfectly strong the moment he was taken back to his mother by train. With the knowledge he gained, Izuku began to practice how to use both of his quirks. Days, then weeks, then months went by as he began to practice using his new quirks. He then soon realized how strong his quirks were. The power-enhancing quirk seems to have the ability to give Izuku the ability to strengthen the muscles of his body, while the regeneration quirk seems to give him the ability to regrow any lost body tissue. With both of these quirks, this seems to give him the ability to be able to attack others, while at the same time giving him the ability to fix his injured body if the quirks were to injure him. While in his room, Izuku was writing down in his new personal journal about his quirks and the quirks from Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and All for One. He was told what their quirks were from them. Shigaraki had a quirk that allows him to disintegrate anything which he touches with all 5 fingers. Lucky that he always keeps 1 finger off, always. Kurogiri has a warp gate quirk that allows him to create portals and transport everything around him, and he knew that he could transport anything. The only restriction was that he needed to learn of the locations. AFO has a quirk that allowed him to take and give quirks. Best of all, he could use the quirks, and thus he was in truth the possible most powerful individual in the world. While writing down, he was then given a text from Kurojiri. When Izuku went for his phone, he read what the text said. "What is this? Research Tashinori Yagi. Who is Tashinori Yagi?" With that, Izuku went onto the web to research this Tashinori Yagi, and what he found he was not prepared for. "It's All Might. Why would they want me to research All Might?" The more he read and found, the more he felt broken. When researching Yagi, he found something which shocked him. Tashinori Yagi. Quirkless. He read that part over and over and over again. Tashinori Yagi is quirkless. Quirkless. How? All Might was classified as quirkless. How was this possible? Was he given a quirk, or was his quirk transabled? He knew of AFO, yet in truth he didn't believe that he would give him a quirk without the hero telling him about the man. No, someone else must have given him the quirk, someone similar to AFO. In the world of quirks, it would not be impossible for there to be similar quirks. Yet knowing this, why didn't he give him a chance? He should have at least given him a shot at the quirk. He should have thought that he could have the quirk. But he didn't give him the chance. He could have been a hero, a great hero. All Might is a hypocrite. His hero is a hypocrite. His hero left him to nobody. His hero left him to be forgotten. He planned on going to the UA entrance exams next week. Yet he didn't know if he should, since going could lead the hero to learn about him again. He planned to reveal the identities of the group he meet to the heroes. He knew that he couldn't trust them, yet they gave him information. They trusted him more than others. Heroes didn't trust him. But now all he could think about was who is in the right and who is in the wrong. And at the moment, that man isn't All Might. Thinking about it, he needed to think about what to do next. The green teen then began to think about if he should enter a hero school. Should he be a hero at all? That would prove the point that was given to him. At the moment, the green teen needed to think about everything at the moment. The green teen then looked at his phone and then at his door. His mom currently was asleep, and at this moment he was free. Deku then contacted the only other people he knew he could trust. He marked for Kurojiri, someone who gave him trust. As he was listening to the ringing, he looked at his journals containing his hero information, thinking about a plan. Since the group trusted him, he thought he should trust them as well. They were the only people who trusted him after all. A call for Izuku. After learning the truth of All Might, Izuku has developed a sense of loyalty toward Shigaraki and all for one, seeing them both as brother and father figures. Deku came to the group as they give him a sense of family and loyalty. Within the group, he learned how they trusted him, and how they saw him as a part of the group. From them, he didn't join a hero school, entering a normal school for his final years of education. Learning with time, the young teen began to tell the group information he had about the heroes, and soon he knew he could do more with this information. The teen then gave information about his journals to the group, and soon he learned what they wanted to do with the information. He was given a choice, if he wanted to sell his information or not. The teen thought, yet knowing and having this information, he couldn't argue against them. Besides, he could gain some money from selling this information. Soon after, a few months within the bar, Izuku became a new informant, and was using his knowledge of heroes for the league. He was given a room within the upper levels of the building, using it as a room for his information gathering, and thus he continued to learn more and sell to the group. This was a method for which the green teen believed he could create a thorn against the heroes who would lie to him. From that time, the green teen maintained time there and would follow and act on anything which was given to him by the group. Izuku comes down now. Kurojiri's voice echoed through the bar, forcing the young green-haired male to walk down to the lower level from his new room given to him. Yes, Kurojiri? Izuku asked with worry and curiosity as to why he was called down. When he got down, he saw a strange man in a purple suit in front of him. Izuku knew of many individuals who entered the bar, and from who he saw the teen knew that he was someone who would deal in darker deals. Izuku, meet Jiren, a well-known broker in the criminal underworld. The tall man then came forward to the young boy as he stared at him. So you are the new member? Expected something different. Oh well, hope we get to work on well enough terms. I saw your journals. They pay well in the underworld. Hell, there's someone majorly important who wants to speak with you. Hearing this, Izuku froze since he was shocked. He knew that his hero journals were extremely important and that they were selling well, but to the point where someone important wants to speak with him, well, that is shocking. Really, as someone wants to talk to me? Izuku didn't know who wanted to talk with him, but waiting wasn't going to do him any favors. Who wants to talk with me? The broker laughed. Well, I can't say who in person, but he did say that he wanted to meet you outside alone. With that, Izuku slowly then began to walk outside the bar, looking around and questioning who wanted to speak with him. Soon the teen saw someone fall in front of him, and from one appearance, he could see who wanted to speak to him, the hero killer Stain. Hello, you are the one who wrote the journal. The voice gave him a sense of fear and respect. Stain. The green teen didn't know how to reach out what he should do at the moment. He knew that he felt fear, that was for sure, yet this was someone who wanted to speak to him personally. The killer neared him. Well, it's good to meet you. He was shocked and at the same time not at all. He knew that the hero killer was here to see him, Izuku Midoriya, the new informant of the underworld, and from this, he could see that he was becoming someone interesting. I've heard about you, a new informant who is giving away information to the criminal underworld. Well then, come with me, I want to talk with you. Izuku didn't know why, but he nodded his head, and with that Stain climbed up the building, and Izuku then activated his power-enhancing quirk to climb through the walls up to the roof. When at the roof, Izuku then began to talk with Stain. So why would you want to talk with me? The killer continued to walk through the building, and thus the green teen followed. I wanted to see who was selling these journals. I saw some criminals using this information against the hero I was hunting. I got them to talk and hear about you. I then became interested. Thank you? Izuku was overall confused about what was happening, and why would the hero killer want him to talk, so as they went across the roofs he learned a bit more about the hero killer. Did you know that I wanted to be a hero at one point? I was inspired by All Might, but I saw the hypocrisy of the hero society, so I want to ask why someone as young as you go into villainy. Knowing what the hero killer told him, he answered him in a half-truth. I saw that my hero was a hypocrite. The hero killer smiled at hearing this. So you do know of the sins of the heroes? Well then, I hope we can work together in the days to come. Izuku looked on with amazement. Someone saw value in his thinking, someone important, someone who saw what he could be. As sure, I do hope we can work together in the future. And with that, Izuku gave him a number to be contacted by the hero killer before he jumped in the opposite direction and then jumped down to the floor in an alleyway. When he jumped down, he saw something shocking, a body down there. He didn't know why, but then he felt someone behind him. Using his power enhancing, Izuku quickly turned around and forced his ascent to the floor. When he saw their face, he saw a blonde-haired girl about the same age as him. She giggled. Well, this is new. Izuku was confused about this girl, and why would she do this? Who are you? I'm Himiko Toga, and no one has been as quick to stop me as fast as you. You look like this cute boy at my school. Can I catch you? Izuku knew that an action like this could be caused by her, but he couldn't understand why. Why did you do this? When Toga turned, all she could give was a small answer. Blood, my quirk craves blood. Izuku understood that quirks could alter a person in a way, just not this type of way. The younger Izuku would have turned her into a hero, but now he wouldn't trust them. But seeing her, she could be of use to his new family. If I give you my blood, can you do something for me later in the line? Toga looked at him with confusion, excitement, and lust. Yeah? The reveal of the LOV. Within the weeks that passed, Izuku met up with Toga in secret, even going so far as inviting her to his home. Her mother only saw her as a new friend of Izuku, if not a bit strange. While in his room, Izuku learned as much from Toga as he could. A quirk that allows one to transform is important and useful across hero society. The quirk could allow one to act as a spy and gather information from anywhere. So your quirk allows you to turn into other people as long as you have their blood. Pretty much. Interesting. Izuku mumbled as he wrote the information which he was learning down into his new villain journal, which he would only use for himself. Looking at this, Toga began to giggle, which turned Izuku's face to hers. What is funny? She quickly stopped in her joy. Nothing, it's just, No one wants to know about my quirk this much as you do. Most people would call me a monster, but you aren't. It is the first time I feel like myself with someone else." Izuku for some reason sympathized with her, being judged for something which you can't control for your entire life, but right now he needed to stay on topic. As he was writing down, his mom entered the room. "Hey you two, Toga, Izuku, dear, do any of you want anything?" "We're fine, Mom, thanks." With that, Inko closed the door, happy knowing that her son was making new friends, while behind the door they continued to speak with each other. Toga grinned. "You know, it seems nice to have a mother like that." "Yeah, it is. Well, it's time." Izuku pulled up his sleeve, which brightened up Toga's face as she mildly poked at Izuku's skin to drink the blood which came out. When learning of this need of Toga's, the green teen saw this as a drawback, needing the blood of someone in order to use one's quirk. When she was done, she saw as his regeneration quirk began to kick in. "You know, it is nice having a friend who allows me to do this, and can heal himself. We're not friends, only my mother believes that, so to you and me we're only acquaintances." As he spoke, he got a text telling him to go to the bar. Izuku saw this and then began to stand up as he looked down at Toga. "Well then, get up, I need to leave, and the only excuse I have is that I am going to your house to hang out with you." "Sneaky Izuku-kun, are you going to invite me to this club of yours?" As she stood up, he looked her in the eyes and responded. The green teen looked down. "Not yet, soon, but not now." With that, both of them began to leave his room to the door as Izuku explained to his mother that he was going to hang out with Toga at her place. When out, both of them went their separate ways, meeting again soon next week. While walking to the bar, Izuku questioned why he was being called, as he wondered what reason he could be needed for. Once reaching the main serving area, he meets up with Kurojairi serving up a random criminal. Once the shadowy figure took notice, he looked at him. "Young Midoriya, glad you came. Please go through the portal." A gateway soon opened right in front of the teen, which he entered quickly. He ended up right in front of AFO, who turned to him. "Young Midoriya, about time you came. I want to say that I will need you to travel with Shigaraki on a mild mission soon." "Me, going on a mission?" He was truly confused about what it would mean. "What mission?" "Soon you will be taken somewhere where you shall use your own skills to write down knowledge on as many quirks which you can." Soon he patted the head of the teen. "Don't worry about school, I'll have it covered, just arrive in a few days to learn soon." The green teen questioned what the mission AFO wanted him to go on, so he waited, and when he was called upon on the mission day, Izuku didn't want to let them wait. Once arriving at the bar, Izuku saw that there were countless individuals there, which gave him a bit of claustrophobia. One of the few criminals then looked at the young teen, questioning him. "What is up with the kid?" He heard one of the criminals say, and thus gave him a sense of fear. He began to wonder where Tamura was as he wanted to leave. Soon a portal opened before him, which he then entered, only to end up in a different room than the one before. When he arrived at the room, he saw Kurojairi and Jiren in front of him. "What is happening?" "Tamura is going there to talk to those villains who want to join the League. Currently we have information which could lead us to defeat All Might. I just wanted to tell you privately." "I also got some items for you, kid." Jiren moved to the side to show a table with a few items for him. The green teen looked at the items. "You want me for this mission?" Kurojairi quickly answered. "Sensei requested for it, but yes, these items will conceal your face, voice, and identity. Can't have them known who you are, now can we?" With that, Izuku placed on the mask and hoodie which completely covered his appearance, so that no one could recognize him. Quickly the green teen left to place the items on. He looked at them, being both nervous and excited upon seeing them. The green teen places on the green rabbit hooded, battle pants, and battle boots, noticing a graphene-like structure on the inside which is meant to protect him. Furthermore, a small smiling mask with a voice-altering mechanism and earpiece inside to maintain his identity hidden and connect him to the others. Lastly, a few knives were given to him in order to defend himself from an attacker. He didn't think much of them, but he knew he wasn't that strong with his quirk yet. Once he left the room, Kurojairi and Jiren then looked at him. "They fit you well, good. Well, do you have any more of those journals?" "Oh yeah, there's inside that desk over there," Deku answered quickly. Jiren turned to the desk's cabinet to take one of them with him. "Great, our beneficial friend wanted to use them." And with that, the broker left money on top of the desk and left the room. Izuku turned to Kurojairi to ask him a question. So when do we go? Pretty soon, Izuku, but first I want to show you something. With that, Izuku was led into another room with something he was scared to see, a giant black bird-like man with an exposed brain. This here is a Nomu, a genetically modified man for the League to use. With that, Kurojairi opened a portal for Izuku and the Nomu entered, through which he entered to be around the villains as Tamura begins to finish his communication with the criminals. Soon new portals begin to be created by Kurojairi and thus Shigaraki then turns to Izuku. Ready? Izuku looked down before quickly answering. Ready. Soon a new portal opened behind the main group which they all entered, and on the second side he was shocked by what he saw on the other side he was not prepared for. His childhood friend and bully, Kaken, the USJ. When Izuku stepped out of the portal he was aside from Shigaraki, Kurojairi, and the giant Nomu guy watching the inside of what he knew as the USJ. Upon his side, he knew that everyone here was criminals and basic thugs working through this as a normal job. In front of him, the teen saw Kaken right across the field of students, and the heroes 13 and Eraserhead. Hello there, I am Kurojairi and we are the League of Villains. As Kurojairi was introducing them, Izuku was overwhelmed to see Kaken there as a hero in training. Shame, All Might isn't here, oh well. As Tamura was talking, Izuku saw Kaken then turned to see a Eraserhead rushing towards the thugs and neutralizing them. Kurojairi portal now. Without hesitation, Kurojairi saw what Midoriya was talking about and opened a portal engulfing Bakugo Hole, and all the students were sent to separate locations. Shigaraki turned to Izuku with glee and whispered into his ear. Good eyes, now take notes on these kids, quirks and all, now will you? Izuku understood now why Sensei sent him here, so he nodded as a portal opened up for him, and when he entered he landed in a random location overseeing a red and white-haired boy. Shoto Todoroki. The green teen looked at the young hero kid. Watching him, he began to take notes on what the boy could do and saw him use his right side to freeze most of the villains around him. Izuku watched as he took notes, but he saw that it was only his right side that he used. Why not his left? He questioned that, wondering what reason he would have for doing that, and watching for minutes led him to be distracted temporarily. Quickly a shot of ice rushed towards the green teen, who quickly jumped far from the spot, nearly taking him out. Izuku then looked at the hero in training, who seemed to wait for him to attack. The teen knew not to do much and thus needed to leave the spot soon. Placing a marker on that question, Izuku called Kurojairi to open another portal to a different location, and as soon as a portal opened he rushed quickly before he was encased in the frozen ice. The red and white-haired boy looked, questioning who that was and his reason for watching him. Once within a new area, the green teen turned, then he saw 3 students, a blonde boy, a nearly naked girl, and a punk rock-looking girl. Overseeing them he saw that they were surrounded by countless villains, but they were planning something. Interesting, what are they thinking? Deku wondered, and as he neared them he could see something interesting. Knowing about quirks, what he saw next proved this theory. The naked girl seemed to create a blanket out of her skin, while the blonde boy then electrocuted the villains around him. Commencing with his quirk, the green teen then jumped upward into the sky, removing himself from the electric attack. Izuku was glad to be up high, but then he saw the boy be taken by one of the villains, showing him that this kid had drawbacks with his quirk. Seeing what's next with the girls, knowing that they could beat the remaining villains, left him with a feeling that he saw enough. Thus Izuku called for another portal to be opened. Within the new portal he entered, he landed in a water zone, seeing a purple boy pulling from his ball-shaped head spheres to the villains behind them as he was being dragged by the tongue of a frog girl. Taking notes, Izuku turned upward to see one of the balls being thrown in his direction, which he managed to dodge with ease. Izuku looked at where it was aimed from and thus saw how the frog girl and the purple guy moved far from the crime-surrounded boat. Seeing that they saw him, he called for a portal and escaped into a battle with a red-haired kid and Kaken. The two seemed to have defeated all of the villains, at which point they noticed him. Hey, you were there with Hand Freak and Miss Freak. Kaken then blasted himself at him, where Izuku dodged and began to run as far away from him as possible. Immediately Izuku saw Kaken running toward him, so he asked Kurojairi to portal him back. When the portal opened returning to the main battle zone, Izuku saw the giant birdman pinning Eraserhead down to the ground with the frog girl and purple boy from the boat there. Taking a moment to regain his breath, he believed himself off the edge only to turn and see Kaken blasting himself onward with his quirk, as well as being followed by the red-haired boy. As Izuku panicked, he yelled at Kurogyri. "Kurogyri, down now!" Kurogyri, confused by the suggestion, ducked, nearly avoiding Kaken's explosion and the red-haired boy's attack. Knowing that Kaken was trouble, Izuku ran towards him using his power enhancement to kick him and then the red-haired boy away. Izuku knew that this wasn't going to keep Kaken down, as he then saw him quickly get up, so he pulled a knife from under his sleeve ready to attack. Living with Kaken for most of his life, Izuku knew his attacks easily, being able to dodge every single blow with ease, but the red-haired boy was more difficult. He saw that his quirk allowed him to harden his skin, so attacking him would be near impossible. Just as Izuku planned a new strategy, the unexpected occurred. "I am here. All Might has arrived." And his own blood began to boil. All Might shows up. All Might finally show up. Just out of all the inconveniences, he had to show up. As Izuku saw him, his blood boiled intensely. Thanks to the League, Izuku knew the truth. All Might used to be quirkless, that like him he was given a quirk by someone else. The mere fact of him showing up placed Izuku in a state of temporal disarray as he returned back into a state of mind when Kaken's explosions blasted him. "Ha, dumb villain, keep your eyes on me!" Kaken yelled. Thanks to the regeneration quirk, his body wouldn't suffer damage, but he can still be able to feel the pain. But now that didn't matter. All Might was here, and at this point, that was all which mattered to him and the others. Before he could do anything, Izuku needed to take care of Kaken and the red-haired boy first. Using his knowledge, he began to move as far away from Kaken as he could, wanting to place enough distance between him and them. As he began to move, he heard something. Turning around, he noticed Nomu being frozen from the right side by the red and white-haired boy. Great! As if he didn't have enough problems, 3 hero students are near him and the number 1 was on the other side. Thinking as fast as he could, Izuku came up with an idea. Noticing the red-haired boy with the hardening quirk, he then began to move to him as close as he could. Then he wanted to gain the red and white-haired boy's attention, so he kicked the hardening boy to the ground and rushed at his target. "Hey you, why aren't you using your quirk on both sides?" Seeing that he gained his attention, the boy then used his right side in order to attempt to engulf him in a wave of ice. Taking enough time, Izuku placed all of the power enhancing into his legs and quickly jumped out of the way, leaving the red-haired boy frozen in a wave of ice, removing him from the fight. 1 down, 2 to go. As Izuku thought this, he began thinking about how he could get rid of Kaken and the other one. Seeing them both, he turns around to see Nomu throw All Might near him, nearly removing him from the fight. "Shigaraki, control it, the Nomu nearly killed one of our allies." After the shock, Izuku then saw Shigaraki move close to the red and white-haired boy, using his quirk to decay the ice being launched at him. As he moved on, Shigaraki began to explain the Nomu's quirks. "All Might, do you really think you can beat us? Nomu has shock absorption. The more you hit him, the more he absorbs." Izuku froze in his tracks upon hearing him, the leader of the League, giving priceless information away just like that. At that moment, Izuku wondered how much of a strategic leader Tamura really is. If one could see under his mask, they would see how much he began to question him. But upon hearing that, Izuku realized something about Shigaraki. He wasn't really that smart. In reality, he saw him as an idiot at the moment. "Shock absorption, not shock nullification, that means there is a limit." All Might then began to punch the Nomu countless times as hard as he could, resulting in him breaking the shock limit and launching the Nomu into the skies. This not only angered Tamura but Izuku as well. The mere fact that this happened caused Izuku to boil. He wondered why Tamura revealed information about the Nomu, but that didn't matter. Thinking fast, Izuku overpowered his enhancement quirk and rushed at All Might, pulling another knife from his sleeve to stab All Might in his stomach, crippling the hero to the ground, shocking everyone around them. Tamura was overjoyed at seeing All Might crippled. "Yes, the symbol of peace crippled to the floor by my ally." Izuku felt his blood warm without hatred but joy upon what he was doing, and turned to face Tamura, asking him one question. "Do you want to join?" As Tamura began moving forward to experience injuring All Might as well, but he screamed as he felt extreme pain in his body as countless shots were piercing his body. When Izuku heard this, he turned around and a portal suddenly came down his feet as he was teleported next to Shigaraki as Kurojairi used his mist to engulf them, both of them guarding them from more gunshots. Izuku saw this, knowing it was the hero snipe. Knowing this was the end, he turned to face Kurojairi, who then teleporting them all away. To the heroes this would be a victory, but it wasn't. As villains attacked the USJ, countless students were attacked, and worse of all Might was attacked and injured by them. Who are the LOV? Part 2. When teleported back to the bar, Izuku fell to the floor as he then saw Shigaraki do the same as blood came out. Damn it, just when it was getting good. Tamura seemed to be near a point where he would decay the entire bar, but was stopped when AFO's voice came through the monitor. Shigaraki, my boy, what happened? The calm voice stopped the rage of Shigaraki. As this occurred, Izuku went off to gain the medical supplies to prevent Tamura from bleeding anymore, but was still able to hear more of the conversation. We attacked the USJ, we nearly had All Might pinned down. Izuku managed to injure him, but more heroes showed up. Shigaraki was enraged with this, knowing that All Might was there, weak and defenseless, to only be helped by other heroes. All of this anger made it hard for Midoriya and Kurojairi to patch up Shigaraki's injuries, but unable to cool down his temper, they continued to patch the gunshots. But my boy, look at what you accomplished, and Midoriya proved that the heroes cannot predict every one of our movements and better managed to injure All Might. Good work on that, Midoriya. The compliment seemed to give the green teen a form of mild embarrassment. Thanks, sensei. Izuku was flattered at the recognition which he was receiving, which mildly annoyed Tamura. Once they were done patching him up, Izuku received a message from his phone. Mom, I forgot about her. Sorry, but I have to leave. Kurojairi, could you please open a portal to my home? Not needing another word, Kurojairi did as he was told and opened a portal to Midoriya's residence, allowing the other villains to speak. See you another day, young Midoriya. With the young teen gone, AFO began to ask about his results. How did Midoriya do? He took notes just as you asked. Shigaraki responded. AFO smiled. Good, I hope to see those notes soon. Sensei, if you don't mind me asking why you sent him there? Shigaraki questioned, knowing the use of Izuku's mind but not seeing the use of him in a fight. AFO laughed. All the information that I gathered from Midoriya, I found one common key: his mind. The boy can analyze any situation to his advantage, which gives us a great key against the heroes and a great ally for you, Shigaraki. Tamura knew how smart Midoriya was and didn't question AFO choices, but he felt like he didn't need to show Midoriya to the heroes and should have kept him secret from them, but now that is compromised. For now the heroes knew of his new ally, but they didn't know who he was. At the Midoriya residence, Izuku entered the apartment to face his worried mother. Izuku, where were you? You said you would only take a while. Sorry, Mom, I lost track of time, it won't happen again. Izuku spoke to keep himself off the hook. Sorry, honey, it's just I worry about you. Izuku understood his mother's concerns, but he could let her know of what he was doing just yet. So while preparing for dinner, Inko turned the TV on to hear the news, only to be shocked at what she heard. USJ attacked by a group known as the League of Villains. Izuku pretended to be shocked, but in reality he wasn't, and in truth, he was warmly happy. He was there, and secretly he was happy for what he had done. Once he was done with dinner, he was going to search more information on the quirks of the students and how to counter them. This would help to tear down Hero Society. This will show them that he isn't just a useless Deku, but something more dangerous, a man of importance. Within the inside of Yue Nizu, Vlad King, All Might, Midnight, Snipe, and Tsukachi. Tsukachi began to spook about the villains. We have records of a man with a disintegration quirk, same with the Warp Gate villain and the Green Hooded villain, so they're not citizens or using aliases. Vlad King looked down. So you're saying we don't know anything? Snipe quickly continued. We should track them down. I shot the ringleader, but he'll probably try again. He seems like the type. All Might responded, yet thinking more about the fight. Something of your mind? Niza questioned. The young man continued to brag about the Nomu's quirks and looked like he was going to throw a tantrum, yet that wasn't at all. The green boy. All Might remembered how he attacked him. The green boy knew where to attack me, and from the students we see that he was around watching them, a form of loyal proxy. True, Shigaraki's actions weren't strategic, and yet the green villain they sent was far more than he could ever be. Nizu responded, thinking of the green villain's actions. All Might wondered of the two and the relationship he saw. True, he may acted like a strategist, yet he seemed to have a strong sense of loyalty to Shigaraki, looking at him when he was hurt, almost as if he was seeing a powerful man fall, not seeing him for what he is, a man-child. Even so, a man-child with incredible power, Glad King responded. He possibly didn't get the quirk counseling students receive, Midnight added. Same could possibly be said about the green villain, as he didn't seem to use his quirk much. The detective then continued further with his information. There were 72 villains arrested in the aftermath of the USJ attack, all petty, thus lurking in alleys. All that worried me was that this man-child got them to follow him as a leader, all possibly being pressured due to a world of heroes. And surprisingly, they were all being told not to hurt the green villain. Plenty of people looking for a cause to get behind, Snipe remarked. Yet being told not to hurt one out of all of them. True, what makes him important? Midnight asked. Unknown, Tsukachi responded. Yet we are still continuing to find information related to the villains. Nizu looked at the images of the green rabbit villain. Well, a man-child surprises me, yet I am more shocked upon this villain, one so important he didn't do but watch. I tend to believe by his build he is young, possibly like our students, but unlike them both, he and Shigaraki are being led through a path of villainy. This shocked All Might. Someone as young as this being a villain, why would they want to be a villain, and how did they know to attack him in his injury? He knew that he would find out who this kid is and learn why he followed the villains. Because that is what a hero does, save others and inspire people. But in truth, All Might made this villain. And nothing will change that. UA Tournament. Weeks after the revelation of the League of Villains, the sports festival was being planned, which Izuku found to be an extremely terrible idea after the students were attacked, but he believed it to be a way to show that UA is still strong. Izuku saw so much wrong with that idea. Those students should be given help, and questioned about how they acted, yet in truth that didn't matter to him. Still, Izuku saw this as an opportunity to learn about the quirks of the students, since this will allow the League to be able to fight and avoid them. Izuku grabbed an empty journal and left for the sports festival, but before he left we lied to his mom about where he would be. Mom, I'll be at a friend's place. Okay, just be safe. Just as he left the building into an alleyway, Izuku soon heard a voice behind. Hey there, Izuku-kun. Toga, she was right behind him. The green teen didn't have much energy to deal with her at the moment. Hey Toga, didn't expect you here. Hee hee. Well, you don't control my life. She giggled. Well, knowing you, I'm guessing you won't leave me, so follow me. Izuku didn't know why he allowed her to follow him, but at the same time, knowing all he needed about her, it was better to have her follow him, and keeping her in his sight. Plus, having her wouldn't make it a full lie with his mother. So in order to arrive quickly, he took out his phone in order to have Kurogyri open a portal to the tournament. Oh, interesting. Toga shivered. Izuku looked at her. Don't speak of this to anyone. When arriving at the tournament, Izuku and Toga lost themselves among the crowd in order to be able to enter the building. So why are we here? Business of mine, Izuku responded. Boo, boring, she puffed. Then why did you follow me? He wondered. Toga shrugged and continued to follow him through the building. As the two went deeper and deeper, the two bumped towards someone who Izuku didn't expect to see. What are you doing here, Deku? Rage came from the voice of an explosive hero. Kaken. When the two former friend enemies saw each other, there was silence across both. Friend of yours, Izuku-kun? She wondered. Kaken turned to face the blonde female next to the green teen, wondering who she was, since he knew that Izuku never had any friends. Who are you? Izuku saw this, knowing that Kaken knew nearly everything about who he was and vice versa. The old Izuku would have cowered around him, but seeing him now was different. For some reason he didn't fear the explosive teen, but he didn't want to face him. There you are, bro. Turning to the side, Izuku saw the red-haired student was walking towards Kaken, which shocked him a bit, as he knew that Kaken would allow himself to friend someone like this. Leave me alone, shitty hair, Bakugo commanded. Toga turned her head to see the classmates converse with each other. Well, this is interesting. Mind your business, Bunhitch? And why are you here, Deku? He commanded her to leave, shocking Toga. Toga got angered. You're rude. Toga, don't piss him off, trust me, I should know. Unlike her, Izuku knew Kaken for most of his life, so he knew of his temper. Bro, do you know these people? The red-haired boy asked. Kaken looked back. Only the nerd. Izuku turned to the student and introduced himself. Hi, my name is Izuku Midoriya and this is Himiko Toga. Hi, I'm Eijiro Kirishima. Kirishima, good to know a name to the face, Izuku thought. So you know Bakugo? Yeah, he and I knew each other as children, Izuku answered. Still, what are you doing here, Deku? Kaken continued to demand. That isn't how you should talk with friends, bro. He was kindly saying to the explosive teen, giving Izuku a funny thought. Bakugo growled as Izuku smirked and Toga giggled at what was happening. Don't laugh, Bunhitch, and answer me, Deku. Well, Kaken, I am here to see the tournament. It is a one-in-a-lifetime event to see, Izuku answered gleefully. Bakugo scoffed as he walked closer to Izuku, only to see that be unable to frighten Izuku. Kirishima moved in front of the angry teen to the green boy. Well, it's nice to meet a friend of Bakugo. Izuku shook his hand with a smile. Nice to meet you too. As Izuku conversed with him, he notices Bakugo's annoyance at him, causing him to move away. Well, it was nice to meet you, but we got to go find some seats. Bye. And with that, Izuku and Toga went to gain a seat in the Coliseum while the two boys went off to the changing rooms. Why did you never mention your friend here, bro? Bakugo turned his head to Kirishima, then thought of Izuku. Seeing the boy out there, he saw something in his eyes which was different to the last time he saw him. Bakugo knew Izuku for his entire life, but the boy who he faced back there was different. Almost as if something was torn away and molded into something else. Reconnecting his mind back to reality, he went on to turn to the smiling redhead in order to answer him. Because I don't. The League new member? Within the Coliseum, Izuku and Toga went on to find seats that will give them great views of the students, and thus give the green teen information about the quirks. During the tournament, Izuku saw the countless quirks of the competitors, and the countless ways they were being used. From both classes 1A and 1B to the gadget inventor, Hatsune, who was strange but intelligent due to the items she builds for the heroes, a purple-haired boy who seemed very tired and barely fought, Hitoshi Shiso, whose quirk seemed to be a mind-controlling one. Viewing the boy, Izuku started to mumble next to Toga. Izuku, what are you whispering about? Izuku turned to face Toga and explained to her what he saw. Oh, it's just those two. The inventor seems to be incredibly smart. Probably will design the gadgets many here will us, and the guy with that quirk, the mind control one, it seems to be an extremely useful quirk no matter which side you are on. You really like to study quirks. Toga listened to Izuku's explanations of how those two were compared to the others, but as he talked he noticed the hero Endeavor talking with the red and white-haired boy. This boy was interesting to him since the Battle of the USJ, as he seemed to act differently from the others. But during his fights, he saw icy waves covering everything but only by his left side, never his right, which gained the green teen's attention. The hero Ingenium was traveling across Hosa City when he saw a shadow in a dark alley. Being the job of a hero, he went on to check on the problem, finding nothing which he saw. A small whisper came along as the hero turned to see the source of the sound. Fake hero. The hero killer came into view, attacking the speed heroine and the legs unbalancing him to the ground. This gave Stain enough time to use one of his knives to slice the hero in the shoulder in order to taste his blood. Stain viewed the paralyzed armored speed hero as he raised his blade and stabbed the hero Ingenium in the stomach and through his spine. The notebooks seemed to be right. Before he could get the job done, he was messaged by none other than Jiren the broker. With that, the hero killer moved away from the scene of the crime as he viewed the bleeding hero's career over already in order to find the broker. As he moved away, he found Jiren in an alleyway. Why did you call me? The broker laughed. Simply, the League of Villains wants to meet you. Stain mumbled under his breath before answering. Why would they want to meet me? Your simple title makes you formidable in the criminal world. Although Stain didn't want to be associated with the League, the only member he seems to trust would be Izuku Midoriya due to his hero knowledge, which helped him in order to complete his mission. Within the Coliseum, Izuku and Toga saw all the battles between the students. They viewed how each of the students fought while still thinking about the battle between Eijiro Kirishima and Tetsu Tetsu. The completely disappointing Toga plainly looked at the results. The fight between those two was anticlimactic? Well, aside from the similar quirks, while one is able to harden himself and the other turning into steel, they both seem to have the same mental state. Izuku explained, yet notice how she didn't care. Still, it was as boring as the girl who just left. She puffed. The battle between Ida and Mei was anticlimactic as the young female just left during the battle. Soon the two heard who will next in the battle. Shoto Todoroki vs Hitoshi Shinso. Izuku stopped talking and began to see the battle between the two. During the battle, he noticed Shinso beginning to agitate Shoto, but before he could respond, he froze the purple-haired boy. Izuku saw the event close but noticed a small detail, something which occurred throughout Shoto's battles. His left side was slightly flaming. He thought the quirk the boy was only ice creation and manipulation, but that was false. The boy's quirk was both ice and fire. And he only used his ice. This angered Izuku to his core. Being raised as a quirkless individual, he knew the pain he felt due to having no quirk, but seeing someone not using his entire quirk angered him. That moron! Izuku's rage was boiling inside, which Toga noticed. Hey, what is going on? Izuku turned to eye her confused face and whispered. He isn't using his entire quirk. Izuku was about to scream before gaining a message in his phone come to the bar. Seeing the message, Izuku began to breathe in and out before standing up and beginning to leave while being followed by a confused Toga. For now, the boy didn't want to see any more of the tournament, since what he saw showed him that people here weren't using their full potential. When the two were in the passageway, Izuku eyed the confused Toga, seeing her as someone who used her entire quirk to her full needs, someone who he respected. Just like Tamura and Kurojairi, they trusted him with the truth and ensured that he was in essence someone who would be liked within their circle. As they began to walk to the exit of the building, the teen began a conversation between the two of them. Toga, you wanted to know about the League, didn't you? Toga eyed him in confusion, and they exited the building. Once they were out of the building, a portal opened in the shadows, which both of them noticed. Well, I believe you can join us soon, just wait, and I'll have someone go and contact you. Toga smiled. Well, I'll wait. And with that, Izuku entered the portal, leaving Toga with a smile as she went on her way. After entering the portal into the bar, Izuku then saw both Tamura and Kurojairi along with someone else, Stain. Izuku began to ask the reason for the hero killer. Stain? What is happening? Kurojairi faced the confused teen. Well, Izuku, we are here to talk about having him join the League. Hosu attack begins. Izuku heard Kurojairi's voice telling him about Stain joining the League. The idea of having the hero killer join the League sounded great, but he didn't know if the hero killer would join due to his ideal. Izuku was selling his hero notes to the hero killer, but having him as a teammate was a strange idea. The hero killer turned to the young boy. So these are the people who you are with, Midoriya. Anyways, what is your conviction? Stain turned to face Tamura as he responded. It's quite simple. I want to kill All Might and destroy this hero's society. Stain began to show disdain to that response which he was given before turning to Izuku. Kid, I know that you dislike heroes for their lies. Why do you stay with them? Izuku knew that both he and Stain didn't like heroes, yet in truth he didn't believe that their goals, despite being similar, were ever going to intervene together. Both shall go on their separate ways. Izuku turned to view Tamura as he responded to Stain's question. They can help me with my goals. Stain listened to the answer before looking at Shigaraki. Well, I'll think about it. If they can help you, they might help me. You take me back to Hosu. I need to finish my job. Kurojairi then opened two portals, one near Stain and one near Izuku. Midoriya, change into your costume, will you? Izuku entered through his portal, at which point the other three villains went through the other one onto a water tower. Shigaraki angrily asked the hero killer a question before he could leave. When can we expect an answer? When I have time to think, The boy seems to be the only one of you with a true conviction, while you on the other hand don't seem to have a true conviction. Stain responded, looking at how the leader would answer. This angered Shigaraki as he heard another portal open, at which Izuku came out in his green hoodie and mask. Stain turned to ask, "Why did he put that on?" "Yeah, even I want to know why," Izuku wondered. Kurojairi turned to face the hero killer. "I want young Midoriya here to join you as you finish your task here." Stain didn't bother to argue against it, since the young teen is the only one he didn't dislike, as he turned to face Izuku. "Come along, boy." With that, the hero killer then began to jump off the building while being followed by Midoriya. When the two were at a strong distance away, Tamura turned to Kurojairi and asked, "Why did you have Izuku follow him?" "I know you, Tamura. You will be angered at what he's done, so you will know us after him. I couldn't let you attack him before we get his answer, so Midoriya is a safeguard to keep him alive." "Very well then, ask Sensei to give me some nomas for the city." And with that, Tamura and Kurojairi both opened portals to bring in 3 nomas to attack the city, while Izuku and the hero killer go after the remaining heroes in the city. As both Stain and Izuku jumped off buildings, the green teen was lagging behind the killer as he fell onto the floor, but thanks to his regeneration quirk, he used his power quirk to jump again back into the roofs, but unknown to him, he brought the attention of the hero in training, Shoto. "Shoto, quickly come on!" Endeavor roared, yet the young hero in training felt the right thing was to follow the figure. Quickly, the young student noticed the green-hooded boy, remembering him from the attack on the USJ, which caused him to follow. When Izuku was able to rejoin Stain, he saw him in a fight against the hero native. Slashing, the hero licked the blade, paralyzing him. Izuku saw the way in which Stain fought, noticing the action, leading him to know the hero killer's quirk. So his quirk involves blood. Just when Stain placed the hero in a weak position ready to kill, Izuku noticed a boy who looked like Ingenium run by, gaining the attention of Stain. "Stain, I am here for revenge." After hearing this, Izuku powered himself, at which point he tackles the boy to the ground. When on the floor, Izuku took the helmet away, only to see the guy to be Ida from UA. Once Izuku saw his face, he was shocked, as he knew rage, and the young student was quite rageful, which confused him. "You're from UA, what are you doing here?" Ida turned to see his attacker. "You're from the USJ, are you working with him? I will also take you down. Kid, watch out." Just as Izuku heard the hero killer, he turned his head up to view a shard of ice heading his way, which caused him to jump away. Ida turned to see the source of the ice, only to see his classmate. "What are you doing here, Shoto?" The young protege of Endeavor, here, Izuku began to wonder what he should do at this moment. Shoto and Ida versus Stain and Deku. "What are you doing here, Shoto?" Ida explained, desiring an answer. "Saving you, Ida." Just as Shoto said that, a knife was nearly thrown at him, which he nearly avoided. Stain growled. "Another false hero in training." Shoto saw where the voice was coming from. It was the hero killer. Shoto was shocked to see him here, and by the looks of it, he was with the green assailant from the USJ, making him think that he is working for the League of Villains as well. Acting quickly, Shoto created a giant ice wall in order to freeze the villains, but Stain jumped out of the way, avoiding capture. Stain then threw a knife at him, at which point Ida came to rush him out of the threat's way. "Get out of here, this is my fight. I am not leaving you to these 2 villains." Shoto exclaimed, thinking that if a member of the USJ villains was with Stain, that meant that other members of the League could be near. "Fake heroes," Stain continued to say to the 2. The 2 turned their heads, only to see the ice wall shatter, with the 2 villains coming to attack them both. "A true hero always comes to help the helpless, such as Native over there. But you seem to have come only for revenge." Stain turned his sword to Ida as Izuku power enhanced his legs to move behind the both in order to kick them deeper into the alleyway. Stain then jumped to the boys, attempting to slice them both, where Ida raced both of the out of the way. Just then Izuku went to punch both, only to be kicked in the stomach by Ida, which threw him to the wall. Izuku turned to the angered speedster, who was boiling with rage. "Did you help him break my brother?" Just then Stain came forth in order to cut the Ida, which led Shoto to launch ice at him, which angered Izuku. Izuku turned to the hero student. "So you will only use ice, not fire, Shoto?" Shoto turned to face the green-hooded villain with confusion. "How did you know of my quirk?" "Seen it from me." Izuku then stood up again and jumped to Todoroki, moving him out of the way. Why not use your fire? You could defeat me faster. Shoto was angered to be asked to use his fire, which led him to want to remove the villain faster. Ida then went on to kick Izuku onto Stain. The two of you will be gone. Stain began to stand again with Izuku remaining on the floor. Fake hero, you can't defeat me, I will kill you too. As Stain raged on to the two Shoto to create a wall of ice to the villain, which he avoided and covered Izuku, neutralizing him. Stain then noticed this and went around the two students to use his knife to cut both heroes in order to gain some of their blood, where Shoto managed to avoid it but managed to cut Ida. Using the blood stain on the blade, the hero killer managed to paralyze the speed hero out of the fight. As the speed hero fell, Shoto created an ice dome in order to protect both of them from the killer, who was above the dun, using his blade in order to attempt and shatter the ice. Seeing this, Izuku used his power enhancement to break through the ice and used the regeneration quirk to heal the frostbite. When Izuku felt strong enough to move, he went on to join Stain by kicking the icy dome, shattering it. Unable to do anything, Shoto quickly thought of what was about to happen and quickly used his left arm to shoot fire at the two villains, which causes Stain to jump out of the way but did burn Izuku's right sleeve and flesh, giving him deadly scars. Shoto looked on to realize what he had done before the two were shocked at what they saw from the green villain. When the others saw the injuries, the skin then beginning to heal, removing all of the scars off Izuku. When Shoto saw this, he was confused. Do you have two quirks? Stain smiled as he viewed Midoriya before facing both students, at which point he saw ice being launched at him, freezing him in place. Seeing this, Ida forced his body in order to run and kick the hero killer, knocking him out for the moment. Ida then near the hero killer and before taking the last action stopped looking at his icy reflection, knowing he can't do it. Well, that takes care of you. Shoto then turned to face Izuku, but before they could continue to fight, a giant pale flying creature came forth into the alley. It was Nomu, who came along to defend Izuku. When Izuku saw this, a portal opened behind him, which he entered quickly, leaving the fight and arriving into a water tower and seeing Tamura and Kurojairi. Good thing we arrived to save you, Izuku. Izuku was happy to see them and then turned to see the flying Nomu fight the students, attempting to kill them until it was attacked by the number 2 hero, Endeavor. The attacked Nomu led it to shatter the ice, holding the injured hero killer, freeing him before he stood up facing the heroes. Endeavor, fake hero, come at me. I will only allow one hero to kill me, and it will be All Might. As the hero killer began to rush at the number 2 hero, the weakened state in which the killer was in gave and leading to him to fall down unconscious. This angered Izuku. No. With the scream, the heroes turned to see the 3 villains on the water tower. Damn, Izuku thought of himself as an idiot due to screaming out loud, which led the heroes to view them. All of this caused helicopters to come over them and record a video of the League of Villain members. Well, I believe we should leave now. Kurojairi then opened a portal behind him, which Izuku walked through, but then Shigaraki took time before entering along with Kurojairi and leaving the scene of the crime. The last scene recorded for folk within their home watching the leadership of the League. Stain aftermath. Once escaping back into the bar, Izuku felt defeated. His ally was just cornered by heroes and he couldn't do anything. Izuku faced the disappointed Shigaraki and Kurojairi. I am going home now, okay? Kurojairi looked at the young teen, knowing he needed to rest. Of course, Izuku, let me open you a portal. Within a moment, Izuku was brought to his apartment and entered through the front door, only to be rushed by his crying mother. Izuku, where were you? I heard that there was an attack in Hosu and I was worried that you could have been attacked. I'm okay, Mom, just tired. Izuku then moved on but saw that his mother turned on the TV only to see something which angered him. All Might on the TV saving other people. The rage boiled in Izuku when his mother saw. Izuku, are you okay? See, he is saving people from those terrible villains. Izuku couldn't believe everything which he saw, Stain being captured, the Nomus being defeated, and All Might. Seeing all of this made Izuku feel like he had no more control of his actions. Everything afterward went like a flash to him. For now, the only thing he could see was fear in his mother's eyes. His hand was bruised as he saw the shattered TV shards on the floor. Izuku? Just as Izuku heard his name, he completely rushed out of the door, run as far away from his home. The boy could be there at his house anymore, the feeling of all might everywhere, the people there blind to the truth, and his mom. After a while, he ended up in a deep alley away from his mother. Not knowing where to go, Izuku walked to the bar, knowing that was the place where he was going to be accepted. Taking his phone out, he was going to begin to text Jiren about possibly recruiting Toga to the league. He was suddenly messaged a video from none other than Toga. "You gotta see this." Curious, he opened the video to see what it was about, only to see that it was about Stain and his ideals. Stain's words were going viral across the internet. Everything, from his origin to his ideals, to his actions, all of it was explaining how Stain came to be and how he viewed the heroes in society. Izuku didn't know why, but seeing this brought a smile to his face. The truth was brought across the web. This could cause others like him and Toga to rise against hero society, to know the truth. In short, Stain's idea would bring new villains to the table, and they could join the league in defeating heroes society. As Izuku thought this, he began to call Kurojiiri. "Young Midoriya, why the sudden call?" "Nothing major, Kurojiiri." Izuku thought of what to do now. "Hey, Kurojiiri, do you have an extra bed in the bar?" "Oh, may I ask why?" the bartender questioned. Izuku laughed. "I think it is only about time since I became a full member." A portal quickly opened at Izuku's side. "I'll prepare your room, just wait here in the bar." Days after Stain's arrest, Izuku was waiting in the bar along with Kurojiiri and Shigaraki, awaiting new recruits for the league. Just on cue, Jiren came into the bar alongside Toga and a tall man with burn marks on his body. "So this is your league, Izuku?" Kurojiiri turned to face the young teen at the mention of his name. "Midoriya, you know her?" "Yeah, Himiko Toga. I personally asked Jiren to bring her over," he responded. "Yeah, while researching her I found out she is a suspect of countless stabbings, and as for our fellow here, isn't in any flashy attack but took Stain's ideology to heart." Jiren laughed. The burn man looked to face the three right in front of him. "So this is the League of Villains, huh? Stain was involved with you all, and you asked for her to join?" He turned to face Toga, surprised to think that they would allow someone as unstable as her to join. Stain, that is all I hear. It annoys me." Tamura was ready to attack, but Izuku came before him. "Don't attack them." Shigaraki looked at the teen, wondering why he'd stop him. "Why?" "I personally asked for Toga to join and he seems to be of use, besides thinking of the bigger picture here," Izuku explained to his leader. This angered Tamura, but in the end, Izuku's mind was valuable, and if he believed then these two could be of use, he wouldn't pick a fight with them. "Fine, they can stay." With that, Tamura stood up to leave the bar, with Izuku following in pursuit, leaving the others to watch them walk away, with Jiren commenting, "Sometimes I don't know how he acts more mature than the other one." As the two walk outside the bar, Izuku calls Tamura in order to figure out why he is acting like a child. "Tamura, why are you acting like this?" "Stain." Izuku looked at him with confusion. He knew Tamura hated Stain but never understood why. But now he will know why. "Stain gains more attention than the league. Our nomas were overlooked, and all the media cared for was Stain. Why?" Izuku looked at him and began to answer to his confusion. "Because he stood for something." Tamura turned to look at his subordinate, wondering what he was telling him. Izuku continued, hoping to explain the value in Stain. "Stain's ideals were to rid the world of the corrupt hero society. He saw heroes for what they are. His ideals could bring us new members, ideals which will be the beginning to ending hero society as we know it. Don't you see, Tamura? Stain meant something. We need to mean something in order to gain more attention. What do you believe in, Tamura?" As Tamura listened, he grinned. "Well, a belief, huh? A conviction, of course. My conviction, that's it. I know what you mean, Izuku. Conviction. The conviction to destroy All Might and Hero Society. That's my conviction, to end All Might and Hero Society." Tamura felt immense joy and liberation upon what he said. Having Izuku around is showing him something which he could never understand, something which he could use. "You are right, Izuku. Stain will help to increase the League's power further. That reminds me, Sensei wants you to go on a mission for him. He wants you to gain information on I Island. He hired some crocs to go, but he wants you to go and lead the mission personally." Izuku was shocked. A mission, one where he would be in charge, was life-changing. The League's trust in him is more than anyone else did for him, so why not go for it? He was a valuable member of the League. What's the mission? Island. After the long trip to the artificial island, Izuku was looking all around him, watching the beauty of Island for himself. Just as he was watching the surroundings, he heard a voice behind him. Come on, boy, we have a mission to complete. Izuku turned to face him. Don't tell me what to do. I'm in charge here. Wolfram angrily scoffed at the boy's remark. He didn't like what the boy told him, and he didn't like being ordered by a boy, but if he was to be paid, he needed to follow the boy and maintain him safe. As the group of criminals continued, Wolfram received a call at which he answered. Hello, yes, we are here. Aha, yeah, we will be there. Izuku didn't know who Wolfram's informant was, but he wouldn't care as long as he gained what Sensei asked him for. When moving along, Izuku noticed someone who angered him. All Might, the hypocrite, was on the artificial island, a major inconvenience for him. What a major fanba! Wolfram turned to face the young boy only to see a dull look in his eyes. The look given by Izuku was emotionless, and with time it became a smile of hate. Oh, I don't like him, I despise him. It was at that moment that Wolfram knew that he shouldn't mess with the boy. That look showed the anger of someone who was broken by the world, wanted revenge, and could be a danger to anyone. Well, we have a mission, don't we? Let's finish it. And with that, Izuku, Wolfram, and the other villains waited until nightfall to accomplish their mission. By the time nightfall came, Izuku saw a ball going down in the building, seeing not only multiple heroes and civilians but some UA students as well, especially Kaken, angered him, so the group then began their plan. As every villain reached their specific location, it was nearly time to begin, so when All Might showed up, it was time to initiate the plan. As Izuku placed his mask on, he then ordered the villain he was with to start the plan. Wolfram, it's time, have your men act now. At that time, Wolfram entered the ballroom along with the villains as the interior traps began to activate, trapping every hero in the room with blue energy beams. Izuku smiled at seeing his former hero in a tangled state. Not even All Might can escape this. With that, Izuku then began to move along from the ceiling to an elevator, waiting for Wolfram to come along with none other than David Shield and his friend Sam. When entering the elevator, David saw Izuku begin to speak. You are quite young to be an actor. Izuku saw him with confusion, and then realized something. David Shield was the informant, except he thought that they were actors, not villains. From this, Izuku continued with the act but didn't speak, as he knew he wasn't a good liar, so he shouldn't say anything. As the elevator moved upward, they arrived on the top floor, where David and his friend then moved towards a certain room. You all wait here. I need to gain something from here. As they moved along, Izuku and the other villains waited in the hallway to wait for David to bring them the invention which they came for. As this happened, the teen heard gunshots which told him that someone was coming forth into the top floor. Damn it, as Izuku thought, Wolfram placed his hand in the wall, opening a room to which he, Izuku, and a third villain entered, avoiding two blonde teens from seeing them. When Izuku saw these two enter the hallway, he noticed them move towards the storage room, knowing that they were going towards where David's shield was. As he saw this, then the wall opened up with the three moving out to follow them. By the time Izuku neared the room, he heard a conversation between David and the blonde girl, his daughter. By the time they entered the room, Izuku then powered himself and jumped to kick the blonde teen in the back of his head, knocking him out. Can't have you interfering. What is happening? Izuku then faced the shocked David Shield and his daughter before claiming, sorry, but we need that. As Izuku pointed at the briefcase, David's personal friend then grabbed the case, rushing to the villains. Sorry, David. Sam, why? As Izuku saw this, he noted a lot of the two scientists in the room. Shield was a well-known man who wants to support heroes, but his friend, Sam, wasn't as well known. He saw that Sam could never be seen out of the Shield's shadow, because he wants recognition. As he says this, Wolfram pulled out a gun, shooting the man in the shoulder, shocking Izuku. What are you doing? Wolfram then smiled at the teen, answering him. Simply getting the mission done. As this happened, the brute then grabbed the briefcase away from the man before pointing his gun to kill the man. That's enough, Wolfram. When Izuku screamed, he surprised Wolfram, who followed the command. Fine, but we are taking the inventor. As he said this, he began to touch the wall, manipulating the meter to tie up the female and the unconscious male to the wall. Melissa, As David shouted, he was hit in the back of his head by the gun which Wolfram held and grabbed him to escape the island. As the three began to move away, Izuku turned to see Wolfram, realizing the actions that the villain was using weren't some that he liked. As the group came to the roof, they were preparing to enter a helicopter and leave Island, at which point Wolfram commented, "Well, your boss will be happy to know we have the invention and the inventor." As Wolfram pointed to the hostage David's shield, Izuku's blood boiled as he remarked, "Yes, he will be." As Wolfram turned his back to Izuku, the green teen then pulled a knife out of his sleeves and lowered himself to stab the villain in the back, shocking the brute. What are you doing?" Izuku heard the shocked voice as he saw the scared David and shocked villain. "Your methods are something which I don't approve of." As Izuku said this, he lowered his body to kick Wolfram's legs, breaking them and making him lose balance, and he fell on the floor. Izuku powered his arms and threw smaller knives at the other villains, killing them. Turning his attention to the disoriented Wolfram, and pulled 2 more knives, stabbing them into his hands so that he couldn't manipulate the metal roof. "You see, Wolfram, I appreciate what you've done for Sensei, but in truth, I don't appreciate your methods." As he said this, David regained consciousness, seeing and grabbed the briefcase before he gained attention of Izuku. As the young teen talked, he stood up and kicked the wounded criminal and turned back to see David trying to escape. When David saw that he was noticed, he yelled at the villain, "No, you are not getting this item." David was beginning to rush back to the door, only to be blocked by Midoriya. "Listen, I don't want to hurt you, but I want that briefcase." As Izuku began closing on the adult, he couldn't believe what the man just did. As he was closing in, David rushed to the side of the roof and jumped off, scaring the young villain, and as Midoriya powered himself to rush him, he didn't make it in time, only to see shield fall off the building. Izuku saw as David continued to fall, and soon, he saw him nearly die if not for All Might's rescue, who quickly noticed him. It was a failed mission, the villains are defeated and the item was gone. Seeing this, Izuku panicky contacted All for One. "Sensei, the mission failed." As he said this, a gray goo came out of his mouth, resulting in Midoriya being taken away from the roof onto a dark room with All for One sitting in front of him. The scared Izuku then began to kneel in front of his master. "Sensei, I am sorry I have failed you, Izuku, hearing the voice, Izuku began to cry in fear. "What happened?" Izuku then explained the entire mission and every single detail of what happened until he was stopped by All for One. "The blonde boy, how old was he?" Izuku fearfully answered him. Probably a few years older than me." All for One whispered. "So he found his successor." As he said this, he turned to Izuku. "You did good, Midoriya. Even though you didn't retrieve the item, you gained some important information." That shocked Midoriya, but he was happy to not be punished by his master. Thank you, Sensei." Izuku didn't know why the blonde boy was important, but whoever he was, it brought AFO joy as he faced Izuku in happiness. "Go back to the bar. You may have failed, but to me, you succeeded." Vanguard Action Squad. Part 3. With the weeks that came by, Midoriya stayed in the bar and met the new members which were being brought to the league by Jiren. He already knew Toga and met Dabi, learning about what he believed in and the interest he had to endeavor, and Shoto Todoroki. But meeting the tall scarred male made him question a lot about him. Why was he interested in the Todoroki family? Why were they important to him? The boy would have to take notes, thinking it could better his understanding of Dabi, and the reason for which he wanted this family was starting to come upon a few theories, but at the moment that doesn't matter. One of the people he met was Mustard, a teen younger than him but also had an incredible quirk, a gas that was able to knock out anyone who would be of use to the league incredibly. The boy wanted to be a hero, but due to UA's bias towards powerful quirks, he would have never been in the school. In short, another kid failed by Hero Society having dreams destroyed by Hero Society, he could relate. Another member brought in was Mr. Compress, a former magician who was both show and brains, showing that he is a great member to join. His quirk allowed him to compress any material in a small marble, which would allow the league to transport anything of importance to them. He would be of great use to the league, allowing them to take anything or anyone for themselves, plus he senses further secrets. Another member, Twice. Aside from his split personality disorder, Izuku saw the man as someone who would be incredibly useful to them. The man's quirk allowed him to make a perfect clone of someone else, giving them the chance to be in two places at once. Though talking to him made the young teen question why he wouldn't clone himself, but he realized that it might be due to some internal issue, but he could fix that soon. Magna, as a transgender woman who he respected due to her following who she was and wanting to be her individual. All she wants to do is be accepted in society. Her quirk, a little strange, makes the opposite genders magnetic to one another. This could help in bringing one of them back to them or removing an enemy away from them, a really useful quirk. Spinner, who Izuku saw as another fanboy as he was to All Might, but instead of following a hero he followed Stain, a little too much. Aside from his quirk, Izuku saw that the humanoid lizard man was probably judged for his appearance, but here he wouldn't be judged. His quirk was still largely unknown to the boy, but he could figure it out with time, and everything can be of use. The other two members who joined weren't on Izuku's good side. One was Moonfish, a mad leather-wearing monster. His quirk allowed him to grow his teeth to attack others. All around would be a useful quirk, yet he truly wasn't of use. His mental state and cannibalistic nature frightened the teen, as he thought that the monster would bring more problems to them. The other member was Muscular, a brutal psychopathic killer. His quirk allowed him to cover himself in muscle and gain a strengthening boost, but to Izuku it wasn't that scared him at his core, it was his mind. As he described him, a brutal psychopathic killer. Both of them would be problems for the League. Their basic mentality will only attract more monsters to the League, not people with true convictions. In the end, Izuku thought that he would need to deal with both of them at a later time. By the time all 9 of the new members were in the bar, Shigaraki began to speak. "Okay, this is your mission, to capture this student." Tamura pulled a picture of Bakugo out into Howard to the villains. Izuku thought it was a terrible idea, but he knew that Tamura would think that Bakugo would make a good villain. "We know of their location, so we will be slowly sending you all there, few at a time, in force to not be discovered. You all are the League's new Vanguard Action Squad and shall be given a specialized Noma which has been developed to listen to both Dabi and Izuku, as both shall co-lead you all. Be sure to follow Izuku's plan, as he has developed a plan in order to have success perfectly." After everything, Izuku personally asked to be in this mission, as he wanted to be there to see Kaken once again. With that, Kurogyari opened a portal where Toga, Dabi, Mustard, and Muscular went through first. After a while then went Magna and Spinner, then Moonfish, and finally Mr. Compress. As it was Izuku's turn, he then turned to face Tamura and explained his issues. "Tamura, you think it is a good idea to have people like Muscular and Moonfish involved?" "Don't worry, Izuku, they are good pawns for us. Think of it like an RPG. They are the players we will sacrifice and involve our powerful characters win." Izuku knew how Tamura saw the new squad for them, but at the moment he took attention to a small detail for himself: characters to sacrifice. It wouldn't matter if Muscular or Moonfish just were left behind, would it? Thinking this, the portal opened in front of him. "Midoriya the Nomu is already ready and deep in the forest. Just say the word and it will bring to attack." Hearing this, Izuku stepped into the portal, seeing the rest of the Vanguard Action Squad waiting on top of a mountain. As Izuku saw the forest and night sky, he asked a simple question. "What is happening now?" "So far the students have entered the forest in pairs." Hearing Dabi's answer, Izuku knew it was time. "Mustard, Dabi goes to opposite ends and uses both your quirks. Twice stay with Dabi and clone him." "Okay. Sure. Of course, no way." And with that, the 3 villains went on their paths. As time passed and Izuku saw the forest be filled with blue flames and purple smoke, showing it was time for the rest to act. "Spinner, Magna, you two go after the teachers and the wild hussy cats. Make sure to take Rag Doll out first." The 2 villains then went along to where the teachers would be to deal with them. Izuku then turned to the rest. "And the rest of you go find Bakugo. The Noma will attack anyone else in the forest." And with that, the others went on their way, knowing that Dabi will command the Noma's attack. With that, Izuku stayed in the mountain as he took his phone, beginning to track all of them and their actions. "Thank you, Jiren, for the tracking tech." Watching the movements of the squad, he noticed that Muscular was moving away from the forest and into a mountain, which infuriated him. "This wasn't part of the plan, Muscular. Placing his mask on, Izuku used his quirk to rush towards where the brute went, only to find him as he was about to kill an innocent small boy. Without a thought, Izuku rushed in and pulled the boy away before he could be smashed by the giant pile of muscles. Izuku then angrily glared at the villain. "Muscular, what are you doing?" Battle against Muscular. Izuku looked at his comrade, wondering about his actions. "What are you doing, Muscular?" Muscular saw Izuku carrying the boy and asking him the question. He answered, "Well, I just wanted his hat, plus better to leave no witnesses after all." Izuku was angered at this response. The man left his post to go after a child, nearly killing him. Izuku may be a villain, but at least he had a standard on who deserves to die. An innocent child like this did not deserve to die. "This is a child, go back to the mission." As Izuku said this, the boy began to cry out, "You killed my parents!" Hearing this, he faced the boy, then went to see Muscular before realizing something. Muscular is a wanted man due to being an insane killer, a killer who killed 2 pro heroes, the water horses. Knowing this, Izuku believed that now was a perfect time to get rid of Muscular, so he then whispered to the kid, "Run!" before letting him go and running behind him. As Muscular noticed this, he then was about to rush him, only to be stopped by Izuku. "The mission is the blonde boy, not this child." Muscular was angered by what he was saying. Izuku may be his superior, but he stopped him from having his own fun. "Don't tell me what to do, kid." Izuku was wrathful at the comment. "Well, if you're in the league, you need to listen to me. As the co-leader of the Vanguard Action Squad and Shigaraki's advisor, I am in charge, so you have to hear me." This enraged Muscular, as he joined the league to kill people, not listen to some child. Seeing around him, he thought of a way to rid himself of the boy. "You know no one will find your body here." Muscular activated his quirk and began to rush at Izuku as he tried to smash the green-haired teen to death. But Muscular made one mistake when fighting Izuku. The mistake was fighting Izuku. Izuku took great notes on each member's quirk when they joined. He noted how Magna's quirk could get their members out of sticky situations. He noted how Toga can gain information for them, how Compress could carry large materials for them. He noted it all. And right now Izuku was about to use that information against Muscular. With one punch of the brute's arm, Izuku powered himself to avoid it, quickly moving behind him and kicking him in the head. He noted how Muscular muscled up his entire body except for the head, glaring weakness if you asked him. Only issue was that it took a while for Muscular to block his head and grab Izuku to throw him into the wall of the mountain. "Sorry, kid, but I want fun, and if having you dumbass on the top removes the idea, then I'll take you out. Hell, I'll say that a student just went too far and killed you." Hearing this, Izuku noticed how unstable the man was, but as he was speaking, a flurry of water was rushed at his face. "Leave him alone." It was the kid coming back to save him. "Damn child." Muscular then took his attention away from Izuku and to the boy. Mistake number 2, never turn away from Izuku. Izuku's regeneration quirk kicked in, healing his damaged body as he then began to stand once again. Pulling a small knife from his pocket, he then powered his legs and ran towards the brute, stabbing him in a region on the back of the head, unbeknownst to him, hitting his spine, paralyzing him. Just as he did this, Izuku turned his head to see the boy. "He killed my parents, he's a monster." "Yeah, he is. What would you do in this situation?" Izuku turned to the boy, who looked at him in confusion. "Do you want to kill him or not?" The boy answered him in confusion, but in the truth. "I want him to pay." Izuku looked at the boy with a smile and told him, "Look the other way." And by the time the child turned, Izuku went on top of the paralyzed Muscular. Mistake 3, allowing Izuku the win. Izuku kneeled down to the defeated Muscular and whispered into his ear, "You know I never liked you, so thank you for allowing me to end you." And so Izuku ended up slitting Muscular's throat, leaving him to choke on his own blood. Izuku then walked in front of the boy and told him, "Stay here, kid, it's safer." The young boy faced the green-hooded teen in front of him. "Are you a hero?" Izuku looked at the curious boy, taking his mask off as he answered him truthfully. "No, quite the opposite, I'm a villain." The boy was shocked, but deep down he knew that he could trust him, that Izuku may be a villain, but he wasn't a monster like the one behind him. "Heroes are bad, heroes took my parents away." Izuku smiled at listening to him. "It's true, heroes are nothing but liars, leaving you to be killed by a monster like him. Now kid, know this. A villain like me is the reason you are alive. Izuku saw that his words were penetrating the boy to the core, so before he left he asked the final question. What is your name? The boy looked down before answering. Koda, my name is Koda Izumi. Izuku. You're right on one thing, Koda, heroes are terrible. As Midoriya said this, he turned to see the flaming mist-covered forest. Stay here, kid, and don't look behind you and don't move, wait until someone comes for you. As Izuku placed his mask on before he began to leave, the teen felt satisfaction knowing that he just took out the useless brute and saved a child who reminded him of a younger version of himself. Thank you? It was all Izuku heard before leaving the child. Thinking to himself, he thought that this child, when grown up, would be a valuable member of the League and could help them in the future. He just needs to wait. But as Izuku was leaving the mountain, unknown to him, someone was there to view the battle between the two. Lucky it wasn't a hero. I didn't know you had it in you, Izuku-kun. It was Toga who saw the battle between the giant brute and the young teen. This makes you just more interesting, Izuku-kun, just makes me want to cut you more. Saying this to herself, the blonde female then heard through her communication that their targets were just captured. Well, that was easy. And so the young schoolgirl then walked away back to the meeting site of the villains. Maybe I should talk to you about what you did, Izuku. Mission success. Just as Izuku began jumping around the woods, he heard through his earpiece that Bakugo was just captured. This meant that they had to go to the meeting side with the other members of the squad. When reaching the meeting point, Izuku met up with none other than Dabi, and Twice, who were waiting for the others. While looking around, Izuku saw that it was only the three of them. Where are the others? They're on their way, Dabi responded. As they wait along, they hear Toga skipping towards them. Hey. Izuku looked at his compatriot. Toga, did you collect enough blood? Toga giggled. One person. Izuku looked at her and couldn't understand her choices. Why only one person? Toga, all of that blood is valuable to your quirk. You were supposed to get blood from as many people as you could. Toga giggled. Come on, Izuku, and I know what I am doing. Izuku would never understand Toga's mind or the reasoning behind why she did what she did instead of doing what he told her, but right now that didn't matter. As they waited, they saw Mr. Compress hopping to them all. Hope I didn't take long. Seeing this, Izuku saw that behind Compress were a group of hero students, being a multi-armed student, Shoji, a short brunette, Yururika, a green-haired girl, Susu, and Shoto Todoroki, closing in on the magician. Seeing the students, Izuku immediately faced Dabi. Dabi, cremate them. The tall individual smiled as he raised his hand upon the students. With pleasure. Activating his quirk, the students had little time to react as the Tsuyu used her tongue to grab a hold of Yururika while Shoto shielded himself in a wall of ice. The only injured one was Shoji, who was scared and countless of his appendages. Seeing them here, Izuku faced his allies. We must leave now. Kurojairi, open a portal. Then 3 portals opened behind the villains, 2 small ones in the sides and a large central portal. In order to prevent any more students from interfering, Kurojairi brought the Nomu into the battle so that it could distract the students. With the beast barreling, the students Twice jumped through his portal, but before Toga left through hers, she turned to face the frog girl and the brunette in the group. Bye, besties. And with that she left. Afterward, the side portals closed, with the center portal being left opened. Once the others were gone, Dabi faced Compress and asked, Where is the kid? Compress then removed his mask and stuck his tongue out to reveal 2 marbles. Izuku saw the 2 marble, confusing him. Who is in the other one? The bird boy. And after telling who was in the second marble, Compress then turned around to tip his hat before entering the portal, leaving only Dabi and Izuku as they saw the Noma fight against the scarred multi-armed student, Shoji. During the battle, Shoto saw the villain in turn, having him launch a glacier of ice at them, which reached Izuku, knocking away his mask before it was melted by Dabi's blue flames. Dabi smiled at the attack before facing the student, Shoto Todoroki. Hearing this, Shoto was shocked to hear his name before Izuku remarked, facing the young student face to face. Still only using ice, huh, Todoroki? Oh well, Noma neutralized, don't kill. And with that, both villains began to enter the portal as the Nomu grabbed the student, pulling him away from the closing portal. Just as Dabi and Izuku returned to the bar, the young teen looked around only to notice that Mustard and Moonfish were missing. Izuku realized that this meant that Mustard was arrested by the heroes, which depressed him since he knew that Mustard was someone who was also wronged by Heroes Society. He thought about returning to the forest in order to rescue him, but Kurojairi then remarked to the teen, taking him out of his thoughts. "Midoriya, where is your mask?" Hearing this, the young teen reaches for his face only to realize that his mask is gone. Damn it. That was all he thought as he realized that Shoto Todoroki saw his face, meaning that he saw his identity. This could cause him problems as it could lead back to his mom. All Izuku thought was how she was currently feeling, and how his identity could be traced back to her. How heartbroken she would be as she realized he is a villain. Just as he thought this, Izuku then heard Shigaraki speak. "Izuku, what do we do to counter their quirks?" Izuku then turned to Tamura and began to explain. "Bakugo's explosions come from his suite, his hands to be more specifically, so we need to contain them. For Tokoyami, I noticed that his quirk requires shadows to work, so we need a lot of light in order to block him." Hearing this, Kurojairi then began to call Jiren in order to gain the items for the students. During all this, Toga pulled Izuku's arm to her and whispered in his ear, "I want to speak with you, Izuku, alone." She was slightly nagging and annoying him before he accepted and followed her into a room within the bar. Once they were alone, Izuku asked, "Why did you pull me here?" She whispered to his ear, "I know what you did." "Did what?" Izuku wondered. "Muscular." The smile in Toga explained to him what she saw. She saw him kill Muscular. This scared him. She could tell the others, which would result in them unable to trust him, but then she whispered to his ear, "You looked beautiful when attacking him." She was praising him, she was adoring him, and she was infatuated with him. "I really like how you did it." Izuku worried. "So you won't tell the others?" Toga smiled as she looked in his eyes. "Why would I do that?" Izuku felt his breath free as he realized that she wasn't going to tell the others, but currently he didn't know why she wouldn't tell. "What do you want?" Nothing," she quickly answered. He couldn't buy it. But at the moment he felt relieved that she wasn't going to tell. So for now he was going to leave, but not before hearing one last question. "Why did you do it?" Izuku couldn't bother with her anymore, so he gave her a quick answer. "Because he didn't follow the rules." And with that he left the room back to the main bar with the others waiting for them to return. Dabi turned to returning too. "What are you talking about, lovebirds?" Izuku quickly remarked. "We are not lovebirds." Hearing that made him blush, but at the moment he couldn't deal with it. "Kurojairi, how long until Jiren gains the items?" "He should have them by a few days," Kurojairi responded. Hearing this, Izuku walked off to his room, waiting for the time when they attempted to orchestrate both Tokoyami and Kaken into the league. By the time he entered his own room, he reached into a cabinet in his desk in order to take out one of his hero journals. The one which Kaken blew up. Seeing the journal, Izuku remembered what was told to him constantly, "You can't be a hero." Rage overfilled Izuku before he realized how this led him into a better fate. A fate as a villain caused by All Might, making him smile. "All Might, when I see you again, I want you to see what your own actions caused." And so the green teen went to bed, drifting off to sleep. The Kamino incident. Once all the villains left the campsite, police came to search thoroughly for any information left on the villains who escaped. What they found was that Momo managed to place a tracking device on the Nomu, the fallen mask of the green-hooded villain, and 3 villains who were left behind by the League of Villains. The remaining villains, there were a knocked-out Moonfish and a restrained Mustard with a broken gas mask. Once they reached a mountain, they noticed the deceased body of the 3rd villain, who was found next to the young happy boy who lived with the hussy cats. The police believed that he was in shock, but in reality the boy was extremely happy, explaining to the police, "I was saved by him." With that, all the detective Tsukachi had was 2 restrained villains who were unwilling to talk, a dead body, and the mask of one of the original members. At first the man believed that he had nothing on who the others were, but then when interviewing the students he found out that one of the students, Shoto Todoroki, saw the face of the green-hooded villain. This was great information, as the 3rd villain from the USJ was the only villains who the police had little to no information about. All he found out was that the hooded figure had green hair, green eyes, and the same age as the students. This drew the attention of the detective as he felt that the identity of the assailant was related to a missing person case. Going through the file at the police station, he saw it, Izuku Midoriya, who recently went missing a few weeks ago. He remembered the boy because All Might asked about the missing teen. At this point, the detective was beginning to connect the point between the teen and the villain. The missing Izuku Midoriya was the green-hooded member of the League of Villains. He didn't know why, but All Might was extremely interested in finding him, though telling the hero that the boy was a villain would shock him, though he still needs to do it. With that, the detective had already called All Might, who soon entered his office, at which point the detective knew that he would need to tell him about the boy. All Might, I found some information about the teen who you asked about. The hero had a smile which would be destroyed at what he was going to tell him. Days after the attack and on every channel on the TV, Izuku saw the same thing. Yue failed to save 2 students, Fumikage Tokoemi and Katsuki Bakugo. Yue was explaining how their students were kidnapped by the League and how the school did nothing to save them. Seeing this brought a smile upon Izuku's face as he realized that the League had won a victory upon the heroes. Soon the smile disappeared as he realized that Mustard was now gone. Muscular was going to be trouble from the beginning, so taking care of him was easy for Izuku and Moonfish. Well, he could care less about him, but Mustard. He was the only one of those 3 who had actual conviction, being wronged by society and its hero system, so losing him was a big blow to Izuku. He knew the 13-year-old wouldn't reveal anything, but still having him there, both mind and quirk, would better the League's goals, a member who also believed in the truth of all their goals. Izuku heard a knock in his door, which was opened to reveal Toga popping her head in. Hey Izuku. Izuku looked down. What do you want, Toga? Shigaraki asked that you come down to talk to the possible recruits, Toga answered. Izuku sighed as he heard that. Of course Tamura would want him to talk to their captives. He could understand their motives better than anyone. So the young teen went for another mask, which he kept within his desk, placing it on along with his green hoodie since he didn't want Kaken to recognize him at the moment. Let's get this over with. As the 2 went downstairs, they saw the 2 teens strapped down, Tokoemi being blazed with countless layers of light, while Kaken was being strapped down with specialized cuffs to prevent explosions. When down to the bar, the angered Kaken noticed Toga, who he remembered from the tournament, and the green-hooded villain from the USJ. You, Bunhitch, you're with them, and you're from the USJ attack. Good, now when I'm free I can now defeat you. Katsuki continued to scream. Are you sure we can turn him, Shigaraki? Compress asked, knowing that the boy seemed uninterested in their plan. Shigaraki laughed. I know we can. The boy has the character of a villain, and you have a powerful quirk, so what do you say? Will you join the League of Villains? Tokoemi was the first to answer. As an aspiring hero, I must reject your offer. Yeah, and being a villain, please. Katsuki continued to scream. I will be the next All Might, the next #1 hero. Hearing this boiled Izuku's blood. He knew that he needed to keep calm, but he couldn't handle it. He began to speak over the explosive boy. You a hero? Don't make me laugh. You show no characteristics of being a hero. You are a bully, a monster. You pick on those weaker than you. You mock them for being powerless. You only cared about yourself. What do you know, mask freak? Come on, speak to me with your real face, huh? Bakugo growled. Izuku walked closer to the boy, beginning to lose his temper, went to release all of his anger. What do I know? I know everything. I know how you only cared for yourself when we were young, how you bullied, mocked, and hurt me for being weak, all of it because we grew up together. Izuku's rage could be felt by everyone in the room as they wanted to speak, but they knew that it would be better to remain on the sidelines, not wanting to get between the angered Izuku. I know, because I was your punching bag, because you scared me for being me, because you called me nothing but useless. Kaken eyed the villain in front of him. I don't know who you are. You don't know, but you told me to kill myself, remember? Midoriya grabbed his mask, taking it off, shocking the explosive boy and confusing the bird boy. Now do you remember who I am, Kaken? Bakugo looked shocked upon the unmasking of the villain. Deku? Izuku eyed the shocked teen before placing his hand on his throat. Still calling me that, Kaken? You never learn, do you? What, you joined villains? Oh, let me guess, you're their punching bag? You think you are better than me due to that. Bakugo regained his cocky look, angering the green teen. All I wanted was to be your friend, but your superiority complex didn't allow that. But now, seeing you like this makes me want to tell you something. The green teen went to whisper into his ear. Thank you, because now I've found those who will accept me. As he moved away from the explosive boy, Izuku punched him before facing Tokoemi. Midoriya, what are you doing? You shouldn't injure them. Izuku turned to face Kurogyri before facing everyone around him, from his shocked teammates, to Dabi's approval, Toga's enjoyment, and finally the angered Tamira. As he calmed himself, he began to explain himself. Sorry, but I needed to release all of that. Now Tokoemi, sorry you had to see me like that. You were mocked for your appearance and quirk in your youth, right? Even though Izuku knew Kaken would never join the villains, that wouldn't stop them from having Tokoemi's their side. Izuku thought that the bird-headed boy could still be a member for the league, and the best he can do with him would be to have him join them through more psychological methods. Just as he was beginning to speak to the bird boy, everyone in the bar heard a knock. Hello, pizza delivery. Everyone inside the room was confused as they faced each other, wondering what this was about before the wall behind Spinner is destroyed by All Might himself. Every villain in the room was shocked as Kamino Woods entered the room, enraging every villain in the room, immobilizing the league. As Dabi was beginning to activate his cremation, the retired hero Gran Torino rushed in, knocking out the scarred villain. The hero Edge Shot then entered, opening the door, allowing the police entry. As soon as the heroes and police entered, the captive students were released as All Might faced the two. Young Bakugo, young Tokoemi, thank you for having a strong face in the face of danger. Just as All Might was speaking, Izuku's rage overfilled him as he saw his former hero in front of him complimenting his former bully, making the teen block out everything from his mind, not wanting to hear anything. As everything around him was happening, he heard Shigaraki's anger explode from his side as Izuku waited for his boss to finish. He couldn't allow everything around him to happen. Izuku faced his former bully. Figures the hypocrite would come for you, Kaken. A liar only cared for another liar. Hearing this, All Might faced the green kid, only to lose his smile when facing him. Young Midoriya, I've been searching for you. Hey, don't ignore me, All Might. I did all of this, and you ignore me. How can you? Kurogyri, bring in the Nomus here. Shigaraki continued to scream. Kurogyri looked defeated. Sorry, Shigaraki, the Nomu aren't on their designated place. Hearing this angered both Izuku and Shigaraki as All Might and the heroes prepared for everything the league had. Young Midoriya, I'll come back to you later. All Might turned to the villainous leader. Shigaraki. Where is All for One? Izuku scoffed at what All Might said. Of course you only cared for the villain, not those you failed. All Might was shaken at what the young boy said, but before he could continue, a gray sludge began to come out of the mouth of the Bakugo, and Tokoemi, then engulfing the villains in the room, leaving Izuku as the final one there. As the green teen smiled, he faced his former hero, having been shocked due to the disappearing students. Smile, All Might. And so the sludge came out from Izuku, consuming him and taking him out of the room. Izuku freed himself. When the sludge covering Izuku was gone, the young boy began to regain his breath back in order to see where he was. He appeared to be in a broken-down building, but taking a closer look, he saw that there were heroes here. Even more, he saw that there were Nomus that were taken out. This was where the Nomu were built. He was in the Nomu facility, and by the looks of it, the heroes managed to find and break the building open. Turning around, he saw that the League, Tokoemi, and Kaken were in front of him. Shigaraki, my boy. Facing where the voice came from, he saw above him floating All for One, wearing a mask in order to conceal his identity. Sensei. Both he and Shigaraki then kneeled down at their master, hearing what he said. It seems you failed again, but don't worry, take as many chances as you need. Grow from each one and keep trying until you succeed. That is why I'm here. I'm giving you a second chance with the students, AFO explained. Izuku faced at his master, beginning to talk. Sensei, if I may say, you should have seen All Might's face. The sense of failure was all over him as he saw them disappear in front of his own hands. Izuku could feel a smile from behind the mask of All for One. Good. Just as they were talking, AFO used his quirk to activate Kurogyri's warp gate. Now take the two and leave, will you? As AFO said that, he pulled his arm in front of himself, catching a punch brought down from All Might himself. You took longer than expected, All Might. AFO then pushed the hero away from himself. Today I defeat you, all for one. Seeing the battle, Izuku turned the two students then to Compress. Compress, how is Dabi? The former stage magician then went to face the knocked-out flame villain, seeing how he was before compressing him into a marble. Out cold, dear boy. This was a blow to Izuku's plan. Right now Dabi was the only one with the perfect quirk who could counter Tokoemi's dark shadows, so looking around he began to think of a way to deal with them. As Izuku thought, an explosion was blown right at them. Deku. Kaken. Izuku knew that the explosive boy wouldn't allow him to think, so he needed to deal with them quickly. Seeing the portal behind him and his teammates, he thought of a way to deal with the two students. As he was thinking, Kaken was throwing explosions at the green teen. Ha, you are still a Deku. Hearing this angered Izuku, since he never liked the name, so the more he dodged the more anger he felt. Turning to his teammates, he saw Tokoemi's dark shadow overcome and defeat the villains around him. Seeing this forced Izuku to think as fast as he could, but before he could act, an explosion was blasted upon the boy's face. Still weak, little Deku. Deku. Deku this. Deku that. He will always be his Deku. He wasn't his Deku. That is what he will always see him as. Well, this is what he is to him. A useless boy. But AFO saw his potential, Shigaraki saw his skills, and Stains saw his mind. The villains saw his potential better than the heroes. So as Kaken went to throw another blast at him, Izuku catches it with his arm, destroying his sleeve. That is all I am to you, a useless boy, right, Katsuki Bakugo? Hearing his name said like that shocked Bakugo, since Izuku never acted like this. The dull and empty sound which came from his mouth brought fear to the explosive boy, taking him by surprise and giving the green teen the upper hand. With Bakugo distracted, Izuku went on to knock him out of bounds onto the floor. Izuku then grabbed his arm and kicked it, dislocating his bones. How does the pain feel, Bakugo? As the battle goes on, Izuku turns to the battle between AFO and All Might, seeing the man use his quirk and power against the hypocrite. Seeing the battle made Izuku smile as he saw his allies battle against Tokoemi. All of this, and he turned back to Bakugo, who was attempting to stand up before Izuku kicked him back down. He then began to kick Bakugo repeatedly as he began to speak. You know, Bakugo, all of this was your fault, you know. You created the villain in front of you, you know. All I ever wanted to be was your friend, but you never cared. Izuku began to power his kicks, increasing the strength and pain he was bringing. You made me like this, all of this is your fault, you know why? Because to you I'll always be Deku, weak, pathetic, little Deku, nothing but your own punching bag. Well, you know, someone like you was never going to be a great hero. You were never a good friend, so why a hero? You will be nothing but a monster who keeps a broken system in place. Remember this, Bakugo, that Deku defeated you, Deku broke you, Deku placed you in your spot as a weak little student. As he talked, the more he continued to kick Bakugo all over his body, enforcing each kick after kick, breaking every bone in his former bully's body. As Deku kept on beating Bakugo, the young villain was suddenly attacked from the back by Gran Torino himself. As he fell, he turned to see the old hero in front of him. Give up, boy. Seeing this angered him, but looking around he saw that his allies were nearly all defeated, with the only standing members being Toga and Shigaraki. Before Gran Torino came back to knock him out, he was teleported in front of AFO. More heroes arrived. All for One then used black tendrils to impel Mange, forcing her to use her quirk to take the League out of the battle. Seeing this, Gran Torino used his quirk to take Tokoemi and Bakugo out of the battle in order to return them back to UA. Deku and Shigaraki were forcing themselves to stay as Shigaraki called for his master. All Deku saw was the beaten body of his former childhood bully being taken away from the scene in front of him, making him smile as he proved his power over him. After seeing his bully leave, the young teen allowed himself to be taken into the portal, only to be followed by Shigaraki himself, leaving AFO to deal with All Might himself. And Deku knew that wasn't going to end well. What now? After the Kamino incident, the League was transported towards a new base by AFO. As everyone was regaining consciousness, Deku faced Shigaraki as he left to a private room far away from the others in the League. Seeing that Shigaraki left the room, Izuku turned to face the other members of the league who were defeated in the battle as he turned to the awakened Kurogyri. Kurogyri, do you think that sensei can win? The warped villain then faced the young villain, explaining to him. Young Midoriya, I believe that master wants us to leave him. He wants Tamura to grow by himself, so he wants us to leave him. Hearing this, the young teen turned and began to follow Shigaraki to see how he was doing. When Izuku followed the villain, he saw the villain in aggravating state. Tamura? When the villain heard the teen, he turned to see the green boy. What is it, Midoriya? Hearing his voice, Deku knew that the leader of the league was enraged with how the battle there would lead to AFO being arrested. Staying in a calm state, Deku began to talk to his leader. What do we do now? Shigaraki raised an eyebrow at the boy's question. What do you mean? What do we do now? Shigaraki, we need to do something? Heroes Society will think that they won against us. What do we do now? Deku asked. Shigaraki rushed at the boy with his hand near his face. How should I know? Sensei is gone. Even though he was in a dangerous state, Izuku kept a calm demeanor in front of his angered leader. Sensei is gone, but we are not. We need to continue on. We need to destroy Heroes Society. We need to defeat the heroes. We need to show that the League will be powerful no matter what. As the young teen spoke, Shigaraki began to calm down before facing his young ally. As the two stood there in silence, Izuku took his phone for him to look up at the battle with AFO and All Might, seeing every scene that was able to be recorded. Within the final scenes of the battle, Izuku saw that while AFO was being taken away after the battle, All Might began to point at the camera. Izuku thought that this was strange, since why would a hero point at the camera, but then he thought of what he knew of the hero. All Might seems that he could no longer be a hero. It seems that All Might can't be a hero anymore. The symbol of peace is now gone. Tamura watched Izuku looking at the news. Why are you watching that? Turning to the grouchy villain, Izuku smiled. Tamura, even though AFO is gone, I believe that his defeat wasn't in vain. After the battle in Kamino, Bakugo was taken to Kamino Hospital. When he was admitted, he was taken into Sector to fix all of the injuries that Izuku placed upon him. The explosive boy was lucky to remain alive, since the young villain was able to break most of the blonde's bones and caused a lot of internal bleeding. When the boy awoke, he was met by the police force, who questioned him about the villains. While the blonde boy lay in a bed, he thought about what happened. He was told that he could still be a hero, but for now, he needed to heal. As the boy lay in bed, he began to think about what was told to him by Izuku. This is your fault. Bakugo was emotionally catatonic. He couldn't feel anything at the moment. His former punching bag, Izuku, was able to defeat him. He was broken by Izuku. He was nothing to him anymore. He was defeated by someone who he saw as beneath him. But now he wasn't beneath him. The green-haired teen was above him, as he was able to break him. He toyed with him. He was defeated by him. The explosive boy would be angry, but in truth, he couldn't feel angry. He only felt emotions that the boy never felt before. Regret. Bakugo now saw himself in a weaker state. He was taken by the League. He destroyed the #1 hero's career, and he created a new villain. Bakugo now only thought of one thing and one only. He must train harder than before. He must train himself to become better. He will find Izuku. He will now train better than anyone in his class. Bakugo will be the man who will defeat Izuku. The blonde boy then faced the window in his room, looking outside at the orange sky. I will find you, Izuku. Within a strong prison cell, the retired #1 hero All Might be entering to see his locked-up arch-nemesis. When he entered the room, he saw his enemy in a straitjacket, being locked up, unable to use his quirk. Compared to him, he wasn't any better. His hero costume barely covered him anymore, being larger than he was now. Facing the villain, he began to talk. All for one, you may know why I am here. Of course, All Might. What do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about Shigaraki or Izuku? All Might quickly thought of his response. A hero saves anyone as much as possible, so I want information on both of them. AFO frowned. Cliché but predictable. All Might saw the charisma of AFO, which angered him, since he wondered how even in prison AFO can still be happy. Tell me what I want to know. AFO signed. Very well, but I will only tell you about Izuku. All Might screamed. That isn't what I want. You're willing to leave Tamura behind. What would Nana think of you leaving her grandchild? AFO laughed. You're as twisted as ever. All Might had a look of disgust. The smile on AFO grew more as he spoke. True, but at least I know potential. The words of AFO sent a chill down All Might's spine as the villain continued to talk. You could have given him one for all Might. Izuku would have made a good hero, but instead you ended up helping me. You helped to create a villain who will help Tamura to grow into the new king of evil. Those words shocked All Might to his core as he knew that what was being told to him was the truth. He could have given OFA to Izuku, making him a hero, but now he has created a villain. Back in the new hideout for the League, Kurojairi, Deku, and Shigaraki were speaking about what to do now. We need new members. As Deku explained to Shigaraki, the leader heard his ally's comments. All Might is no longer the #1 hero. His retirement will cause more villains to rise. Shigaraki, we can have them join the League and increase our power. Hearing this made the leader of the League smile. You may be right, Izuku. Deku. Shigaraki stood there in confusion due to his ally stopping him in the middle of his comment. Deku quickly continued. Deku, I want to be called Deku. If I was seen as a useless boy, I want the world to see that this useless boy was there at the end of Hero Society. The villain smiled at his ally's new name. Well, Deku, we now need to expand the League's power. Now, Deku, what do you think we should do? Deku then turned to Kurojairi. Kurojairi, is there anything new happening in UA? The school is now building dorms for the students, and the licensing exams are also being created for the students. Kurojairi explained. Hearing this, Deku gained an idea, turning to Shigaraki in order to explain his plan. Shigaraki, we need Toga to infiltrate the licensing exam. I need to find a student for her to personify. Knowing this, Deku left the room in order to find Toga so that he could explain to her his plan. Toga bounced to the green teen. Hey Izuku-kun. Deku, call me Deku now. Turning to face Toga, he began to explain his plan. Toga, I need you to find a student from a hero school and act like them. The licenciataria exams will occur, so I want you to go and collect as much blood from the students as possible and gain any info you can. Hearing this, Toga smiled as she knew what to do now. Izuku knew that this would gain new information for the League, so he would accept how much info Toga can gain from the exams. For now, the League needs to regain their status and power in society. Overhaul. Part 4. For the next few weeks, the League was exploring the city to find new members join. As the League was exploring the country, Deku was beside Shigaraki for most of his time within the warehouse. While Deku waited for the others to return, he gained a call from Toga, knowing that he was the one sent her to the licensing exams in order to learn more about the students. Toga, did you collect more blood? Well, I gained blood from a few students. Toga giggled. Good, did you learn anything about the students? Deku asked. No, but the blonde boy we took somehow became ruder. She pouted. Hearing this, Deku realized that Bakugo was now even more angrier than before, which would lead to his downfall. Well then, good job, Toga, come back to the warehouse. Twice thinks he found someone who could join the League. Okay, Deku-kun. Deku hung up the phone before she could say anything more and began to call Jiren. Come on, pick up. Hey Jiren, what do you know about the villain who twice wants to introduce to the League? Deku, well, I don't know, since he wants to introduce the individual to you all himself. Anyways, kid, are you sure you don't want me to bring you another version of your old mask? Jiren asked. Deku took a moment to look at the new mask which he asked for, a simple modified mouth mask which would help him to breathe in difficult situations before returning to the call. No, I am okay with the new one, call you later. The young teen then hanged the call in order to call Kurojairi so that he could teleport the League back. Hello, young Midoriya, what do you need? Kurojairi, I need you to bring everyone back to the warehouse. Deku responded. Very well, I'll send them back to you. Kurojairi answered. Deku wondered about Kurojairi's mission and what it was for. Will you be back too? Sorry, but I am currently in business. No, that was the answer. Deku didn't know what the warp villain was doing, but he was okay with him bringing the other members back to the warehouse. As nightfall came, Deku saw the other members return, and he noticed that the only member who didn't return was none other than Dabi. Deku looked at the other members before moving to a private corner in the warehouse, taking his phone out in order to call him. Dabi, where are you? Hey kid, I'm busy. There is this individual who I meet that could be a member, he growled. Well then, bring him over. We can introduce him along with Twice's member, Deku responded. Not yet, he said. This shocked Izuku, as he didn't know why his comment was being rejected. Excuse me? I want to know if we can trust him first. Hearing this controlled Izuku's confusion. He knew that anyone who would enter the league should be trustworthy, so having Dabi know this brings him to question why the other members don't think like this. Very well, Dabi, call me when you think we can have him join the others and I will meet Twice recruit, Deku responded. Very well then. When the flame villain hanged up, Deku took a note of Dabi's mind. Dabi seems to think a lot more than he burns. He seems to question his recruit, making him smarter than the other members, along with his interest in the Todoroki family made Deku theorize about Dabi's identity, but at the moment he was taken out of thought when Toga wrapped herself to his arm. Deku-kun, Shigaraki says that Twice is near, so we need to go back with the others. Hearing her, Deku moved back with the rest of the league, standing beside Shigaraki as Twice brings his recruit to them. Seeing him, Deku saw that this man was wearing a green coat and a weird bird-like mask, making the young teen question who he was and what his quirk was. Well, now you brought us a pretty big catch now, Twice? Deku turned to Shigaraki, knowing that the tone he was using sounded strange. You know him, Shigaraki? Sensei showed me a picture of him once. He is a leader of what you call the Yakuza, overhaul leader of the Shai Hazakai. Hearing that, Deku was shocked. He knew who the Yakuza were in the past, but seeing a member here was amazing to him. Toga looked confused at the comment. What is the big deal? Deku quickly turned to her. Big deal, Toga. Have you ever learned about the criminal history of Japan? Compress chimed into the two young teens. Well, children, let me tell you a story. A long time ago, the Yakuza were a large group of criminals in the past, but with the rise of heroes, the group began to lose power, becoming thugs in the criminal underworld, soon becoming obsolete and an endangered species of criminals. The remnant of the most powerful crime system in Japan here, facing the League of Villains. Deku couldn't believe it right there, right now. Endangered species, huh? I guess that's true. Hearing the distorted voice, Deku could tell a lot of the villain's mind just by his voice. He was a calm individual who seemed to calculate everything that happened near him, so to Deku he was troubled, and he needed to be ready for anything. Yeah, what's a Yakuza thug from the slums doing here? Let me guess you're excited about All Might's retirement too? Shigaraki mocked the crime lord. It's good that he's gone, sure, but I'm more interested in AFO's absence. Hearing that made Shigaraki shake to his core, and Deku placed more attention to the villain now. The Dark Emperor who ruled over the shadows. Most people my age thought he was an urban legend. You can imagine the shock when he showed up in the flesh, but in the end the big bad was thrown into Tartarus and the symbol of peace returned, leaving those in the shadow and light leaderless. Deku knew where Overhaul was going, so he needed to prepare for what happened. He might expect them to fight first, so he would need to calm down members in the league who might want to fight. Shigaraki began to move a few steps forward. You know who my master was, and you asked then? I'm the next leader, and I'm gathering my troops, with our numbers continuing to increase, with our combined power turning Heroes Society to dust. Overhaul looked at Shigaraki. Do you have an actual plan? Watch your tongue and tone. I thought you wanted to join us. Shigaraki growled. A goal without a plan is just a wish. Why should I join you after you increase your forces? Do you have any idea how to organize your league? You had the hero killer, staying by your side, muscular, Moonfish, all first-class game pieces, and you lost them. Overhaul explained. Deku knew that at that point he should enter the conversation. All of those losses were due misinformation, miscalculation, and unknown variables gained through our battles. We know what we are doing, Overhaul. The Yakuza member then turned to the young teen. Well then, couldn't you think of different ways to go over them? You can form an army, but what happens when you lose control? You need direction to achieve goals. I didn't come here to join. I need money. The Yakuza wouldn't be funded, but your group has widespread recognition. Put yourselves under me and make me your new leader, and I'll show you all how to use the right tools. Hearing this, Deku knew that this man wanted to control them all, but with him not knowing his quirk, Deku couldn't have anyone in the league fight him, so he needed to keep calm. Overlooking the other members, he noted how everyone was irritated by his comments. Magna then stood up, activating her quirk. Sorry, but we didn't band together, so serve under somebody's boot. Seeing this, Deku enhanced himself in order to stop her from attracting Overhaul to her. Magna, don't attack. We don't know his quirks, so for the moment let's not do any rash actions, okay? Overhaul turned to see Deku. Smart kid you are, he did just save your life. As Deku turned to face Shigaraki, he waited for a sign to do something, but that never came as Mr. Compress jumped at the Yakuza member intending to marbleize him. Compress, wait. Just as the magician touched the Yakuza, his quirk didn't work. Why isn't my quirk working? Don't touch me. Seeing the moment, Deku saw the Yakuza remove his glove off and touched Compress' left arm, completely blowing it up. Compress twice then rushed at Compress as Shigaraki rushed forward in order to decay him before someone else came forth, being decayed instead of Overhaul. Soon more men wearing plague-like masks broke into the warehouse. Twice looked exaggerated. Where did they come from? We weren't followed, I swear. One of them probably has a tracking quirk, Deku explained. Shigaraki was beginning to boil as Deku saw the group before him as one member held a gun. Well, at least we know they work. Hearing that, Deku wanted to know that they were. Killing each other would be redundant. Besides calling me later, I owe your side an arm. Just as he was leaving, Deku looked at the pile of blood in the floor, which at one point was Compress's arm, but among that pile saw something glimmer. Look, I don't want to rush you, but the sooner we talk the better. Think things over carefully. Think about how your organization should be run, and when you calm down, call me. The villain threw a business card, and when they began to leave, Deku quickly grabbed it, looking at it over and over again before going to the pile of blood. When the entire group left, Shigaraki turned to Deku. Deku, what can you theorize about his quirk? As the green teen faced the pile of blood, he found the item which glimmered him, picking it up and looking at it. It looks like his quirk allows him to blow up items, but that never seems to be the case. I need more information. Thanks, Deku, you saved me. Magna thanked the teen. Deku turned to face Magna. I knew that we couldn't face him head on. Not knowing his quirk led us to a disadvantage, so fighting him could have caused us lives. Deku then returned to Shigaraki's side, giving him the card and showing him the item. What is that? I don't know, but I believe it neutralized Compress's quirk. I think it is temporary. Deku then faced the armless Compress before returning his attention back to the bullet. The Yakuza group could end up becoming rivals to the League, so something had to be done about them. In turning with Overhaul. With the warehouse destroyed, the League was transported to a small apartment, wondering about their next move. Within the small apartment, Shigaraki spent most of his time alone, and after a few days called Deku near him. As Deku entered the room, he saw Shigaraki. Do you have a plan? Shigaraki then faced his ally. Yes, I think we should work with the Yakuza. Hearing this confused Deku, making him question why Shigaraki would want to work with the Yakuza. Why? Shigaraki smiled. It is simple, we will destroy them from the inside. Knowing that, Deku then mumbled to himself, thinking of all the possibilities in which that could either work or fail before facing Shigaraki again. That sounds smart, Shigaraki. We could gain the quirk nullifying bullets from them, helping the League even further. So when will you call them? I'm thinking about contacting him now, and I want you there with me. Shigaraki looked at the teen, awaiting his response. Deku knew the two worked better together, and thus going was right, okay. And with that, Shigaraki took out the card which Deku gave him and began to call Overhaul in order to start a meeting. Within the Shaiha Saikai base, Deku and Shigaraki were in a small room along with Overhaul and a few of his men. So glad you wanted this meeting, but first, why bring him here? Overhaul pointed at Deku as Shigaraki began to answer. I want to have him here. Deku will know the plan as I know. Very well then, let's start. Overhaul sat down facing both Shigaraki and Deku at the opposite of him as he started the conversation. So you finally saw the light? As the conversation between Shigaraki and Overhaul continued, Deku began to look around the room, searching for anything which would give the League more information, but as he looked around, he heard a small scream. Slowly, Deku turned to Shigaraki, who didn't seem to notice the scream before facing Overhaul. Seeing him, he believed that the bullet which he used against Mr. Compress was derived from a quirk, so he jumped into the conversation. Excuse me for jumping in, but your bullets, how do they work? Overhaul turned to the young boy before remarking, I'll tell you all when I believe I need to. Deku was annoyed that he wasn't getting answers, but that scream made him question if that individual was the one who gave them the material for the quirk. Well then, can we have some of the bullets? Overhaul seemed irritated but reached into his pockets, pulling out a small package which when open reveals 1 bullets. Here they are, but why should I give them to you? Overhaul looked at the two. Well, if you want trust between the Yakuza and the League, you should give us some of your bullets. Shigaraki then turned to face Deku, smiling, knowing that the bullets could be of use to the League. Deku is right, give us a few bullets and I'll give you a few of my members. Overhaul looked at the two before agreeing. Very well, in order to gain trust between our groups, bullets for members. Shigaraki smiled. Very well, a good way for both of us to gain EXP. The villains then stood up as Overhaul began to give bullets to the villain leader while eyeing the young green-haired villain. I want you to be one of the villains to be brought here. Deku faced him eye to eye, answering. Very well then. As Deku agreed to the agreements, he thought of how he could find the origins of the bullet and maybe replicate them for the League of Villains. Back at the apartment with the League, Shigaraki then began to speak up within his group. Everyone, Deku and I came up with a plan to defeat Overhaul, Toga, Twice, and Deku will join them and destroy the group from the inside. What? Why should we do that? They blew up Mr. Compress' arm, and if it wasn't for Deku, Big Sis Magna could have died. Twice explained. As Twice was yelling, Toga was rushing near Shigaraki, pulling a knife near his neck. Why would I do that? As Shigaraki removed his mask, he turned to the young schoolgirl. I thought that you would be happy to work with Deku? So you plan to use Deku to have me work with them? Toga looked deeper at Shigaraki. Deku reached for her arm, moving it away from their leader's neck. It was my plan, Toga. If it wasn't for me, we could have had casualties within our group. Besides, if we want to rid ourselves of the Yakuza, we need to destroy them from the inside. Eyeing her, Toga then calmed down as she faced him, removing her arm from Deku's grasp before Shigaraki continued to talk. Anyways, Deku will be in charge when you all enter the base, so make sure to follow what he plans for. Shigaraki pulled into his pocket, grabbing the bullets which were given to him by Overhaul. Here are the bullets which were given to me by Overhaul. Deku managed to make a deal with them. From what we know, he plans to sell them in the black market as well as the cure, gaining a profit. As the League heard this, Deku began to speak. Our alliance has given us a few bullets, but with them I could gain the formula for the quirk nullifier, thereby helping the League against the heroes. As the League learned this, Deku pulled Toga and Twice aside as he called Kurojiri so that he could open a portal taking the three to the meeting place which Overhaul asked for. Once in the location given by Overhaul, the three villains were being taken so that Twice and Toga could meet Overhaul. Within the room, the villains were beginning to introduce themselves. Overhaul was the first to speak between them all. Welcome to the Yakuza League of Villains. I am sorry for the little spat which we had, but in the spirit of cooperation I would like to have you join in our grand plan. Toga emotionlessly remarked. I was forced to come here. Twice angrily added. And I am only here because I was asked. I still hate you guys, what do I have to do? Seeing his allies, Deku turned to the villainous leader. So anyways, what do you want us to do? Overhaul replied. For now you follow my orders like any member of my organization, though I want detailed explanations of your quirks so coordination is easier. Toga quickly replied. We will tell you when we feel like it. As Deku felt irritated with Toga's response, Twice quickly chimed in. I can make a clone of anything, but I need a clear image of what I plan to duplicate. Without a perfect image, all he will get is a poorly formed copy which won't last long. With people I need measurements. Copies are less durable and powerful than the real thing, and the second copy is fragile than the first. For personal reasons I can't copy myself. Turning to see the black and gray man, both Toga and Deku was in shock at how well he responded to the question. What? I didn't mean to. Well, that was dumb, Toga remarked before going on a rampage about her own quirk. I can change into anyone's appearance by consuming their blood. It gives me the full ability to copy another person's appearance and create the perfect image of them, including the most tiny details. The amount of time I need to transform equals to the amount of blood I consume. 1 cup of blood lets me stay transformed for about a day. The blood of multiple people gives me options. I get their clothes too. Hearing this shocked Deku, as he didn't think that his teammates would cooperate this easy, leading him to question a few things about what was happening. Before soon came his time. My quirks are power enhancement and regeneration. Basically, I can enhance any part of my body with therefore giving my body's strength even more strength, while my other quirk allows me the ability to regenerate any damaged body tissue I have received, even from the most minor injuries. Hearing himself, Izuku soon realized that this was all due to a quirk. Looking around, Izuku saw a black hooded figure behind Overhaul pointing him out. You over there, I'm guessing that the reason we went on like that was due to your quirk, right? A truth-telling quirk. Toga and Twice were angered to be forced to tell the truth, but Deku just laughed, confusing everyone. Ha ha ha! Even though I am pissed to be forced to say the truth, I understand why you did it, but still I feel like it would be better if you told us about your quirks. Overhaul looked at the young teen before responding. Of course, but all in due time. Besides, you understand why I did it. Can't have people hiding secrets from us. That is true. Deku smiled as he continued to talk with Overhaul as the rest of the villains viewed the two. So what do we do? Toga questioned. For now you all will listen to me as the rest of my underlings. Overhaul then had the three move to a different room, and where they would be staying. Just as the villain left the room, the three members of the League of Villains then began to speak with each other. So what do we do now, Deku? Toga asked the green teen. For now I'll think we follow Overhaul. I think that the time to defeat him will come soon, but first we need to learn more of the bullets, so stay here will you? Deku turned to the two villains in front of him. But that is boring, Toga nagged. Of course, no way, Twice contradicted. Listening to their response, Deku left the room to explore the base, as he searched the long hallways only to see a certain door, questioning the design. Why is this door like this? Seeing around him, Deku saw no one as he entered the room and saw a little girl inside the room. Hello there. Izuku's study of Overhaul. Hello there. Deku saw the young blue-haired girl in front of him, wondering what she was doing on this base. As he began to close in, the girl quickly cleansed in fear, as Deku saw that the girl was in fear when seeing him, making him wonder why she cleansed in fear when in front of him. As he stood behind, an arm reached to his shoulder, being driven out of the room to face an angry Overhaul. You shouldn't be here. Seeing his rage, Deku softly remarked a quick excuse. I just wanted to look around the base, sorry, but I have to ask, who is she? Overhaul turned to see the little girl, ignoring the green teen. Someone who isn't important to you. Hearing that made Deku question what the girl was for. She seemed of use to Overhaul. Adding to that, Overhaul can make quirk nullifying bullets which are made from another quirk, bringing him to a conclusion. The blue-haired one-horned girl had the quirk which is used to make the bullets. Whatever the girl's quirk is, it is used to create the bullets. Overhaul is experimenting with the girl, using her quirk to create the quirk nullifying bullets which he would sell and distribute the quirk nullifying bullets, therefore, destroying Hero Society to have the Yakuza's power return. Knowing this gave Deku ideas on how to defeat Overhaul, thus bringing a grin up his face. A few days after Deku met up with the girl, the boy then went on to talk along with Overhaul about what he believed. When he found time to talk along with Overhaul, he began to speak about a new plan. Overhaul, sorry about what happened those days ago, but I want to talk about her. The feared crime lord then looked at the young teen right before him in disdain. No, I don't want to talk. Deku confronted him closer to the point where he could be killed but didn't care. No, I believe that we should talk. I know that you are making bullets out of her. I don't know how, and I probably don't want to know how, but aside from that, I believe that I can help you control her. Just give me time. The villain then looked at him, able to kill him but won't, as he begins to think about what the child is proposing. How can you help me? Deku smiled as he commented. Well, unlike you, I know how to act around the children, and I know how to have them act and behave in the way you want. The Yakuza leader looked at him, thinking about his words and how even when hearing him at the moment helped him realize that the boy was correct and that he was telling the truth. Okay, I will allow you access at Eri, but it will be under strict supervision. Deku smiled as he heard the villain. Thank you. As Deku was given access to the girl, he was just given basic information about her. Her name was Eri and her quirk was one of the most powerful quirks in existence. Though he doesn't know enough about her quirk, he explained that it was quite powerful, so he began to think of what it could do. He thought that her quirk could neutralize other quirks or completely erase a quirk, showing her as one of the most powerful individuals in existence. As he entered the room, he noted the black hooded member of the group watching him, much to his annoyance. Deku sighed as the member kept his eyes on him. So your quirk allows you to make people say the truth or something more? Don't talk, Overhaul just wants you to deal with the girl. The villain stopped as he opened the door, allowing Deku to go near the girl. Don't attempt anything. Deku knew that with him he needed to be careful near this member to not reveal anything about his plans, so he just walked towards the girl, kneeling, attempting to touch the girl, who still whimpered in fear. Hey, don't be scared, I don't want to hurt you, I just need to talk. The girl looked at the green teen as he slowly walked near her, which she saw was different from how Overhaul went to her. Seeing him, she began to walk toward him as Deku attempted to hug her, as he noted how she didn't want to be hugged, likely due to how Overhaul treated her. As he enclosed his arms near her, he whispered in her ear, "Don't be afraid, all I want to do is help." Thinking about his words, Deku knew he needed to sound neutral and completely truthful, as he knew that the member could reveal any information of his plans against Overhaul to the villain. "What is your name?" The girl then quietly answered, Eri. "Well, Eri, my name is Izuku Midoriya, but you can call me Deku." Looking at her, Deku saw her terrified face. "What is wrong?" The girl looked at him as time passed until she answered, "What are you doing, Dot?" Deku then looked at her with even more curiosity. "Hugging you? And no one hugged me." The girl then cried even more as she then hugged Deku back. "No one is this nice to me. No one hugged me. No one looks at me. Not when I ran, no one looked at me." Hearing her, Deku soon thought of how he could use her for his plans and how she could be of use, so looking at her, Deku then said, "I am looking at you and I can keep you safe." As Deku said this, he looked over at the Yakuza member, thinking about his wording, keeping her safe in his way, and soon he will be keeping her safe far away from Overhaul. As he talked, Deku thought of his words so far, asking Eri about who she is, making her think that she is safe, and now making her trust him. "Hey, don't worry, I will stay here with you and protect you from anyone." As he spoke, he looked into her eyes, showing how truthful he is to gain her trust. She tore through his shoulders before he asked one question. "I don't want to sound mean, but what is your quirk?" As Eri hears this, she raises her head and begins to explain her quirk to Deku. "I do not know what it is, but Overhaul says that I can rewind something to the previous state." Hearing this made him smile, as he knew what her quirk could do, so he then thought of countless ways her quirk could be used. So for now, Deku then just continued to hug and rub her blue hair, as he comforted her continually. After weeks within the Yakuza base and the room in which the League was staying, Deku called Toga and Twice, and they finally came along. He looked around to make sure that no one else was near the three. Once he felt secure, Deku then began to discuss his plan with the two. "Toga, Twice, I have developed a plan against Overhaul which could take him out." As he spoke, Deku looked at both of them before continuing. "I have found how Overhaul is making the bullets. He is experimenting with a small girl whose quirk lets her rewind people to a previous state." As he spoke, Twice jumped in. "How sad, why should I care?" Toga added to Twice's comment. "Yeah, why should we care about a girl?" Deku inhaled as he placed his hand on his forehead before he continued to talk. "What I am saying is that this girl is the source of the bullets. Her quirk is what allows Overhaul to create the bullets, so for use that is incredibly useful, so if we can take her away from him, then we will be able to defeat him in a way." Hearing this, Deku saw how the two now understood what he was saying before he then continued. "Once we take her out of the equation, we can now defeat the Yakuza and Overhaul." As they hear this, Deku saw Toga smile twice, then became quite jumpy, making him smile. Just as Deku began to face the door, he noticed two of the members enter the room fighting the teen, as he thought that the members heard his plan. The white-cloaked member then turned to face Deku. "Overhaul wants you in the meeting room." Hearing that, Deku then began to breathe in and out in a calm demeanor before being taken towards a room with a window with Overhaul looking over it. As Deku went near the villain, he saw what the Yakuza leader was looking at, a group of heroes at the entrance of the Yakuza base. As Deku viewed each of the heroes, he noticed hero students within the group, showing him that this is a planned event. Deku then took out a small notepad and began to write down all of the quirks of the heroes whom he saw and the students who he knew. Once he finished writing down all the quirks he knew, he passed the notepad to Overhaul for him to know what the group is dealing with. When Deku gave the notepad to the crime lord for him to see, he questioned him. "What is this?" Deku sighed, answering, "The quirks of the heroes within the group thought that you could use the information." Seeing the notepad, the attack on the Shai Hasaikai was now starting to begin. Attack on the Shai Hasaikai. As the attack on the Shai Hasaikai was beginning, Overhaul called upon all of his members and the League of Villains as well. While Overhaul talked to his allies, Deku brought Toga and Twice to the side to explain what is occurring. "Toga, Twice, we are about to be attacked by a group of heroes, so we need to prevent them from getting towards us." Looking behind him, Deku then whispered to his team members, "The heroes will defeat him if we fail." As the green teen talked, he saw how the two seemed to understand what he was saying, as the two were being taken away from the room to their location to block the heroes. As the group of heroes was about to enter the building, Overhaul then looked at his right hand, Chronostasis, then at Deku. "Come along." As the three villains took Eri, the group then began to move through another passageway to leave before the heroes could get them. Within the group of heroes, the young student, Mirio Togata, known as the hero Lemillion, was beginning to enter the building to defeat the villains. From what was told to him from Sir Naikai was that the Yakuza were cheating bullets that were neutralizing the quirks of an individual, and they are currently working with the League of Villains. With the mission, a side mission was also requested from All Might himself, to find the members of the League of Villains, Izuku Midoriya. He didn't know why, but the young villain was of importance to All Might, as he seems guilty for what is happening to him. Although he didn't know if All Might was the reason for the boy's fall, at the moment he only thought of his mission: stop Overhaul, prevent the distribution of the bullets, and find Izuku Midoriya. So the hero began to enter the building, going through each of the walls to find the crime lord and be able to defeat them. Phasing over each of the criminals, he soon found the villain, Izuku, in a room along with a tied-bagged individual. "Hello there, you knew I would have heard about a new pro hero like you, so I'm guessing that you are a hero student." Seeing the situation, the young student stopped, wanting to think of a way to save the hostage and arrest Izuku. "Stop right there, Izuku." Hearing that made the villain flinch as he looked down, and then up to the tall blonde. "Deku, call me Deku. You sound a lot like All Might, and guessing by your look you are heavily inspired by him, maybe even be the next All Might. You could probably disappoint others the same." As Deku said this, a frown formed on his face as he began to raise his hood to cover his hair, turning around and pulling a knife from his sleeve to the bagged individual. "Now I'll give you a choice, leave now or let this civilian die." As he began to pull the knife to the hostage's throat, Lemillion then activated OFA and rushed at the villain, grabbing his arm and pushing him to the side as he looked at the hostage, about to remove the restraints, as he was then punched by Deku. At first your quirk only seemed to be phasing through objects, but looking at you now I believe that extra strength is abnormal, therefore you have another quirk." Deku stood up as he powered his legs to rush towards him. "If you know me, then you know I was given quirks which even the playing field between us." As Deku began to throw a punch, Lemillion phased through the punch and kicked Deku right in the stomach, dropping him to the floor as he then rushed towards the hostage. Lemillion then began to remove the restraints that the hostage had. "Get out of here, there are heroes in the path in front of you, you can get help from them." As he was freeing the hostage, Deku raised his arm and threw a blade, at which point Lemillion caught in with his arm and reached to knock the villain out, only to be suddenly pulled away to the opposite end. Seeing behind him, he saw the hostage remove their restraints, only to see brown hair and shades covering their eyes. "Good timing, Magna." Deku then stood up as he walked to the young student. "You know, you should think when dealing with me, I may have been given a quirk from AFO, but in truth, my best weapon is my mind." The young green teen then kneeled as he continued to monologue. "So by seeing you, I have to say that out of everything, you have failed, All Might failed, the heroes will fail. And you know the worst part." Deku kneeled as he closed into the fallen hero. "You did all this thinking it was just a capture mission, but truthfully it should also be a rescue operation." The golden hero fearfully wondered what the young teen was talking about, but he then saw him stand as he continued to talk. "The bullets, did you ever wonder how they were made?" Lemillion began to slowly stand as he heard the green teen talk. A girl, the bullets are being made from a little girl, and you heroes only came for us the villains. She thinks that she is nothing, and in truth she is right. You heroes didn't come for her. Hearing that, Mirio quickly stood up and rushed at Magna, seeing her quirk as the major threat in the battle, going to punch her with a small percentage of OFA. Once he placed her on the ground, he turned to see Izuku, who noticed him and began to enhance himself to flee. Mirio then rushed at the young teen, pinning him to the ground. The girl, where is she? The villain then smiled as he looked into the blonde's eyes. Now you care. You didn't seem to care when starting this mission. You heroes will let anyone down. You are just creating the next me. While Deku was talking, he pulled a small knife from his sleeve, powering his arm ready to launch it, but not at Lemillion but at Magna, which shocked the hero in training. What are you doing, your team member? As Mirio turned, he saw that the body of Magna was beginning to turn into goop, and he then turned to Izuku. Did you think that I was going to fight you with my real body? Then you are an idiot. The clone of Deku smiled as he raised his knife and stabbed his neck, shocking the hero right in front of him as he realized that he was just tricked by the young teen, showing that his time was lost due to the fight against the clones. As the young hero in training then began to move along, he then raced through the walls, attempting to find the villain Overhaul and Deku, as well as the little girl which the young teen mentioned, as he saw that as plain villain arrogance. Within the hallways, Deku was walking along. Chronostasis and Overhaul, who was carrying Eri in his arms, was leaving to get out of the building when they heard someone behind him. Hand over the girl. Turning around, the villains saw Lemillion arrive behind them, and as Deku saw him, as the enraged Overhaul spoke. You just rushed to your death. As the young hero began to rush, he then lost his balance, as he could barely make sense of anything. The young hero then turned up to see a villain, Didoro, drinking as he looked down upon the young hero. As the young teen was falling, Nemoto pulled a gun to him as Deku raised his hand. Wait, I want to know some information. Deku then walked to the young fallen hero as he then began to question him, hoping that Nemoto would answer them. Ask him what his quirk is? And what is Sir Nitai's quirk? Lemillion shifted his sight to the green teen. What, did you think I wouldn't recognize All Might's old sidekick? As Nemoto asked the questions, Lemillion answered them. Sir's quirk is foresight. He can see the future if he touches and has eye contact with someone, and my quirks are permeation and one for all. Permeation is my original quirk, which can allow me to phase my body through any solid matter, and one for all, given to me by All Might, can stockpile power and pass it to other individuals. Hearing that shocked the villains right in front of them, especially Deku, who was blocking out everything as he heard that last part. All Might's quirk was passed down to him. All Might, the man who didn't see him as possibly being a hero, gave his quirk to him. Everything was blocked as anger overfilled him, as he didn't see the young hero phase through his trap and fight against the villains around him, knocking out Chronostasis and Didoro, and when he began to close into Deku, the villain held his hand up, grabbing the punch, which pushed a rush of OFA energy through his arm, injuring it, and allowing Nemoto and Overhaul to leave through the hallway. Seeing the blonde in front of him, Deku then began to enhance his body and rushed to the young hero, attempting to kill him. Punch after punch after punch, Deku was filled with rage until he was kicked by Lemillion, injuring his body. Seeing the three on the floor, Lemillion then quickly rushed down the hall to rescue Eri from Overhaul, leaving Deku to the heroes. As Deku lay on the floor waiting for his regeneration to kick in, thoughts rushed through his mind. He knew from AFO that All Might's quirk was passable to other users, and how AFO gave him a quirk. By the name of it, OFA and AFO quirks were related. That's why All Might was so concerned about AFO. The quirks were parallel and opposites. For everything that happened to him, Deku saw the truths within society. People like him, Shigaraki, and the League were forgotten and rejected, and people like Bakugo and this guy will always be favored in society. Life will reject the weak for the strong. He couldn't take the injustices of Hero Society. He needed to rebuild Hero Society and make it better for people like him and the League. And to make his plan work, he needed to make sure everything already happening happens, and by having the hero student here, he realized his clone did his part. Eri's existence will, in the end, help the League. As soon as regeneration fixed his body, Deku stood up, walked to the unconscious Chronostasis, and placed his hand on his chest, enhancing it and crushing his ribcage. Can't have you interfering, and as for you, The young villain looked at Didoro. You really wouldn't care, so I'll leave you here. Deku then rushed down the hallway in an attempt to eliminate both Overhaul and the young hero, leaving Eri all to the League. Battle against Overhaul. Deku began to rush down the hallway in pursuit to get Zero for himself and the League. The girl's quirk would help anyone based on the side in which she is in, and for Deku that side would be his. He didn't care for anything else except to have the girl by his side. If he saved the girl instead of the heroes, then he will be able to teach her about her quirk, he will be able to teach her about society, he will teach her how to rebuild the world in the League's image. As Deku rushed through the hallway, he saw the hero student fight against Overhaul with Eri on the side, as he watched Overhaul create countless spikes, thus allowing him to grab Eri. As Deku rushed at the girl, Lemillion saw him and phased through the spikes to punch him out of the way. Deku was sent flying away, and as he stood up and watched the hero above him before being sockemed with rage. All Might gave his quirk to this kid instead of him. All Might only valued power. All Might never cared for those like him. All Might would allow people like him to fall so that others like him would rise. Why did All Might choose you? Deku began to calm himself as he stood up, allowing regeneration to heal him. Lemillion avoided the spikes Overhaul threw at him as he saw at the young villain before him, thinking of a way to remove the idea from his mind. That was a lie. And no, Deku stood up and rushed at the shocked hero student, who then quickly phased through the powered kick him to the side, which was launched at him, having the young villain fall onto the floor before turning to Eri. Looking at her, Deku smiled as he whispered to himself, Eri. The young villain then rushed towards the young child, which the hero's student noticed, therefore having him rushed in order to save the child. Mirio quickly then phased through the floor in order to jump in front of Deku and keep him away from the girl, but what he didn't expect was Deku to hope for this. When Mirio jumped right in front of the villain, Deku quickly turned to the side as he saw a large spike pulled out of the ground, separating them both. When the two landed on the floor, Deku thought of reaching into the inside of his jacket, yet didn't think about it, as he needed for later. Deku then jumped beyond Mirio as he watched Eri right in front of him, wanting her for himself and the League. As Mirio saw him, he rushed at the young villain, at which point Deku enhanced his legs, jumping out of reach of Mirio. Once Deku landed, he saw Eri right in front of him, so as he walked to the girl, a stamp was thrown right at him. Turning around, Deku saw Sir Night-Eye right in front of the entrance to the battle. Just great, Deku thought of countless ways in which he could leave this fight with Eri by his side, but looking down he thought that only a certain amount of chaos would set him free. As Deku thought, Sir Night-Eye began to battle against him. All Might's former sidekick, Sir Night-Eye, before it would have been an honor to meet you, but now it isn't. Night-Eye attempted to reach the villain, who kept himself at a distance. I had read your file. A kid who couldn't face reality, an All Might fan such as yourself, disgusts me. Deku was angered as he heard this. Well, maybe he shouldn't have broken the dreams of a kid, or even should have considered giving his quirk to me. Sir Night-Eye was shocked to hear this as the young villain then pulled out a knife, stabbing him in the chest. When Deku pulled himself out of the path, he sensed movement within the ground. As he knew what was happening, Deku used an enhanced jump, leaving Sir Night-Eye to be impaled by Overhaul. Turning around, Deku saw that Overhaul became a monstrous individual. Looking close, Deku saw that the villain overhauled Nito into himself, turning himself into the monster he is. Knowing what was happening, Deku turned to Eri before the roof of the building was destroyed by a large dragon, Ryukyu the dragon hero. Seeing this made Deku internally scream. He wanted the heroes to take down Overhaul, but now he might as well be taken down. Looking upward, he saw both Toga and Twice Oswell as what he suspected to be a clone of Compress. Come on, Deku-kun, we need to leave. Deku then turned to see Eren right there before turning to his allies. Not yet. Deku rushed at the young girl. At the same time, Mirio noticed him. The young hero student then phased to the floor and jumped out, at which point Deku quickly pulled out a gun close to the young hero student and pulled the trigger. Deku knew that Mirio would do anything to stop him from getting the girl. So right before he rushed here, he needed something from Chronostasis. His gun. So when he found the weapon, he found needed bullets. Searching the white-hooded villain, he found the bullets. Deku was unsure if OFA could be erased by the bullets, so if the bullet didn't erase the quirk, he would still be powerful. Plus, adding to the fact that the quirk-nullifying bullets was in a limited source. He couldn't yet allow them to be depleted, so he needed to use regular bullets, so right now he needed to think smart. He knew that someone who was trained by All Might's former sidekick would have All Might's ideals. Those ideals being to save other people first, and it so happens that he was in the path of the Eri. If he were to phase, Eri would be shot and killed, but Deku knew that he wouldn't do that. He would take a shot. So when he pulled the trigger, Lemillion knew that he had only a split second to react, so he took the shot, falling to the floor, at which point Deku had an opening for Eri. Looking at the hero student, Deku kicked him right in the face and rushed towards the horned girl, grabbing her in his arms right towards his allies. As he reached the edge, Deku took one of the quirk-nullifying bullets for himself, as he gave the rest to Eri, having her hold on to them strongly. "Don't let go of these, Eri." Deku then enhanced his legs to jump upward, throwing Eri at the clone of Mr. Compress, who then compressed her into a small marble. As Deku rushed upward, a large hand came, grabbing the young villain out of the reach of his allies. "Quickly get Eri out of here!" The little girl squirmed with fear, but Deku. "Just leave!" Deku screamed at Toga as twice then grabbed the young female villain, pulling her out of the way as he grabbed the marble from Compress. "We must leave now, Toga. These are our real bodies." Mr. Compress helped Deku. "Screw him. You all are raggetting this old man out." Compress jumped at the giant arm as twice forcibly dragged Toga out of the path of danger with the small marble containing Eri. Compress marbleized a large chunk of the arm, freeing Deku from the monstrous overhaul, as Deku then loaded the bullet he had into the gun. Deku knew that the bullet he had wasn't the permanent quirk erasing bullet, instead of only temporarily nullifying it, but that would be all he needed. Deku turned the Compress clone, then turned to Overhaul before thinking of a way through. "Compress, I need you to launch me to the main body." Deku smiled as Compress quickly marbleized him using his arm and placing the small marble into his gun. Once inside, he aimed to the large monstrosity and shot at it, waiting for the perfect moment to release Deku. Once in place, Compress released Deku from the marble as a spike was grown out of the floor, impaling the clone, completely destroying him, but not before releasing Deku onto his target. Deku knew he had only one chance to take out Overhaul, so he needed to make the shot count. Looking at the villain, Deku raised the gun upward. Once in line, Deku then pulled the trigger, hoping that it would land on Overhaul. As the bullet landed, Deku fell onto the ground as he closed his eyes. Once opening them, he saw that he wasn't being impaled by anything, making him realize that he managed to shoot him. Forcefully making his body stand, he saw as Overhaul fell down from his monstrous body onto the ground. Deku then stood up, seeing Overhaul placing his arm over his shoulder, only to be unable to use his quirk gave him the opening. As he forced himself to stand, Deku rushed at the villain as his regeneration slowly healed his damaged body, but before he fell again, Deku went on to punch Overhaul out before he fell down. As he fell down, as he saw heroes rush towards both the fallen Overhaul and by addition himself. "Just great! More heroes!" Deku closed his eyes as he lost consciousness, allowing his body to truly heal in order to be in a much better state. Yakuza Aftermath. Deku was waking up and he quickly felt his body now healed up. Deku gasped for air as he searched his surroundings before seeing that he was in what he believed to be an ambulance. Looking around, he saw that he was strapped down with police officers around him. Just great. Deku knew that for now he would be taken off to Tartarus, but in truth, he knew that police were going to ask him about the other members of the League, so he then turned to face the police in the ambulance he was strapped into. "You know, I am not going to say anything." Turning around, Deku saw that no one paid attention to what he was saying, which annoyed him deeply. As Deku remained there, he felt the ambulance quickly shift and turn, which shocked him a bit. Did the League come to save him? Deku felt the ambulance tilt and shake until it quickly crashed onto its side, injuring every police officer inside. Deku was seemingly happy to be strapped downside. This is keeping him safe. As he gasped for breath, Deku quickly thought about why the ambulance crashed. But as he thought, the door was open to reveal both Mr. Compress and Dabi. "Hey kid!" Deku felt secure, but now he wanted freedom. "Dabi, don't just stand there, free me." Dabi smiled as he turned around, leaving Compress to come and free the green teen from his restraints. "Thank you, Compress." Deku saw the magician bow as he was being congratulated to turn and see that all the police cars piled up, and saw Shigaraki next to another ambulance. "Deku, so you were in there?" Deku scoffed with annoyance. So I am guessing this wasn't a rescue mission. Deku turned to see the other ambulance. Who's there? We heard from Toga that you and Overhaul were being taken through an ambulance, so we decided to come forth. Shigaraki turned to the ambulance and began to disintegrate the door of the ambulance. Deku looked around the group. And what about Twice and Toga? Dabi quickly answered the young teen's question. Magna is picking them up. Deku closed his eyes as he smiled. Good, they have something I want to show you. Shigaraki was intrigued by what Deku was saying, but at the moment his mind was focused on Overhaul. Once the door to the ambulance was decayed, the villains pulled the strapped Overhaul out of the ambulance. Once he was on the ground, Mr. Compress then reached for one of Overhaul's arms and marbleized it, but Overhaul didn't flinch. Seeing this, Deku mocked the villain. Ouch, no response, Overhaul? Do you want to kill me? Overhaul responded, as at this point he didn't care, only to be searched by Shigaraki for his bullets. Once Shigaraki found the bullets, he looked over them before turning to Deku. Are these the bullets or cure? Deku saw them before responding. Bullets, the finished product. Shigaraki smiled as he turned to Overhaul. We will not kill you. Deku was confused by what he heard from his leader, as even though they are villains, Overhaul was a monster. We will not. Shigaraki turned to Deku as he smiled. No, we will not. Instead, I have a better plan. Shigaraki took a hold of Overhaul's remaining arm as it began to decay, at which point Shigaraki pulled a knife and began to chop off the arm, leaving Overhaul crippled. I think it is better to leave him without the ability to use his quirk, the man who wanted to destroy quirks unable to use them. Shigaraki began to laugh as Deku joined along with the madman. The irony of Overhaul's fate was better than death. As the villains laughed at Overhaul's fate, Spinner screamed, Hey, we need to leave now. Deku smiled as he saw Overhaul as he bowed to whisper in his ear. Don't worry, I'll take better care of Eri than you ever did. At this, Deku, Shigaraki, Dabi, and Compress began to walk towards the truck. The last thing they heard was Overhaul's screams as they began to drive away from the scene of the crime. Once the League left within the back of the truck, Deku turned to Dabi. Phone now. Dabi was confused, but instead, he just handed the green teen his phone, at which point Deku called upon Toga. Deku-kun, your save. Toga. Deku quickly butted in. The marble, do you still have it? The girl marble, yet Twice has it. She quickly commented. Deku smiled at this information as he realized that Eri was still with them, and he then turned to the villains within him. Clone of Compress, I had him compress something of importance. I'll tell you more when I can show you. Once in a new base, Deku went to Toga, who then handed him the marble, and once he looked over it, he passed it on to Compress. Would you mind? With the question out of the way, Compress released the contents of the marble, freeing Eri upon the villains. With her free, Deku went near her as he introduced her to the rest of the League. Shigaraki, this is Eri, the source of the quirk nullification bullets. Now she can be of help to us. Seeing her, Shigaraki pondered her usefulness. Why would we want a kid? Deku neared a villainous leader, making sure he was out of hearing range from Eri before responding. Her quirk can rewind people to a previous state of being. If she controls it, she can be our healer. A good party needs a healer after all. Deku turned to see the young girl frightened by everyone around her, at which point he kneeled before her. Don't worry, Eri, these people are good. We saved you after all. Deku comforted the girl before turning to Mr. Compress. See him, he will show you something magical. Deku took her to the old stage magician, who upon seeing the little girl and hearing Demi's comment began to show the child some mild magic tricks. As she was distracted, Deku turned to face Shigaraki. Shigaraki, trust me, when I teach her to control her quirk, she will be able to rewind us before any injury comes upon us. We will be healed from any damage which the heroes inflict upon us. Shigaraki smiled as he heard this, knowing what this meant for the League. They were at this point invincible. Good thinking, Deku, but for now, she is your responsibility. The green teen smiled at his leader. I wouldn't want it any other way. Deku then neared Eri as he saw her smile upon see Compress' simple tricks. Come here, Eri. The young girl then walked upon the villain, who then kneeled to speak to her. I want to train you. The girl then looked at him in confusion as she didn't know what he was talking about. Train me? I want to show you your quirk isn't dangerous. Deku saw how Eri cowered in fear as she reached for her horn. No, no, remember I am not Overhaul. I want you to use your quirk for yourself. I want you to know how to use your quirk. My quirk makes me a monster. Just as Eri was crying, Deku cleared her tears as he looked at her with joy. Your quirk doesn't make you a monster, it makes you powerful. Deku turned to face Magna. Magna, take her and care for her. Magna turned to him in confusion as she reached for the girl and took her to another room before facing his leader. So, Shigaraki, what do we do now? The villainous leader turned to see the bullets in his hand before turning to face Deku. Simply, what can you tell me about the bullets? Festival reunion. Within the abandoned house which the League set themselves up in, Deku watched over the sleeping white-haired child on the couch. He knew that having her use her quirk was tiresome, but in truth, he saw its worth. He noted how the quirk was in use and how it affected the little girl. Her horn size declared the amount of power she could use. Having twice along with him made her training a lot easier, as his clones were willing to help him train her with her quirk, and since they were clones they truly didn't matter in the end, they were just fuel for her quirk. The more he trained her, the less she feared her quirk. Eri was learning from him, and that went right along with his plan. As she slept, Deku left the room before pulling out his phone to see about anything which was happening in the hero world. Searching online, he knew the ranking system wouldn't be updated, for he searched for anything interesting relating to the world. Nothing. Nothi, wait, what is this? Deku stopped before clicking on the video which interested him. When watching it, he saw what appeared to be a corner store being robbed before the heroes showed up, at which point then it cuts away to the aftermath of the heroes being defeated. As he rewatched the video, he didn't understand what was happening. What are you watching? Asked a voice from behind him. Deku turned around to see the blonde villainous Toga at his side. Firstly, don't scare me like that. Secondly, some dumb video. He replayed it, and showed it to Toga, who when watching it remained confused at what she just saw. Confusing, right? Deku sighed as he turned his phone back to himself. Whatever this dumb parody, Wally, don't get this, gentle criminal. As he spoke, Compress jumped into the conversation. Gentle criminal, you say? Deku and Toga turned to face the magician. You know who this gentle criminal is? No, but I know what he represents. Mr. Compress continued. He represents the classical genial criminal. Don't you children learn about gentle criminals? Deku and Toga quickly responded to Compress' comment, dropouts. Compress placed his hand upon his chin. I guess that makes sense. Being a villain and a student at the same time seems impossible. Yet know this, children. Gentle criminal represents the old style of villainy. Hearing this confused Deku as he searched his phone before seeing the UA festival events. As FO, are now Shigaraki wants us to get supplies with him, so tell him I'm not going. Deku's comment shocked both Toga and Compress as they turned to face him. There is somewhere I need to go. At this point, Deku then walked into the house and he searched for items to disguise himself. Deku arrived at the UA festival disguised wearing a green overcoat and plain shirt, as well as painting his hair black and wearing red eye contacts. Don't worry, Deku, the paint isn't permanent. Once at the US festival, he noted how the events were about to start soon, and to Deku this seemed like a bad idea. He knew that after everything which happened, he hoped that parents would be against UA, but now this festival is the school's attempt to show themselves as strong as ever. As he walked around, Deku stopped at a tea store, noticing the most suspicious duo in the festival. A man wearing a large trench coat and surgical mask, and a little girl wearing something that seemed like an adult. From how they looked, he suspected that the large man was the gentle criminal, and the smaller woman was his accomplice. The green teen followed the two onto a tea shop, and once they ordered their tea, he placed himself onto their path by accident. Sorry about that, please forgive me, good sir. No problem, young sir, the criminal explained. We will just be in our way. Wait, you look familiar, you the gentle criminal. Deku made sure to sound loud enough for him to listen, yet silent enough to not attract the attention of others. A fan, I see. The tall man seemed intrigued by the young teen right in front of him, which Deku planned. He noted how someone like him was desperate for attention, yet he knew that he could use the villain, someone to attack the festival without him getting his hands dirty. Deku wanted to destroy the festival and destroy the faith in UA, but at best it would be better to remain outside of the hero's eyes. Deku then continued his fanboism for the video maker. You are the gentle criminal, wow! Gentle criminal and his companion were overjoyed at what he was hearing. Good, to know someone likes my work. Deku faked a smile as he continued to fanboy over the wannabe villain as he increased the criminal's ego. So, are you going to do your next video here? That will be so cool. Deku fanboyed as gentle criminal's ego expanded, which Deku hoped would lead him to destroy the festival instead of himself. Once Deku left the shop, he noticed how the villain duo then moved on their own way near the main event. Deku then moved into the background as he wanted to watch the event which was about to occur, as the UA festival was about to get ruined. Just as Deku was watching, the main event of the festival was starting. The young villain then saw the entirety of Class 1A performing a dance routine, at which point he saw the gentle criminal jump into the stage with his partner holding a camera up to him. Fellow audience, I am Gentle Criminal, and I am here to make myself known. As the villain monologues, heroes began to jump, at which point Deku saw them being jumped away from the duo. I am guessing that is his quirk, some sort of elastic quirk. As Deku saw the heroes attempting to deal with him, he saw countless of the students and heroes attack the villain only to be bounced away as he attempted to fill his cup with tea only to ultimately fail. Seeing the madness in front of him, Deku silently whispered to himself, "Ha ha ha, this went better than I could ever imagine." Deku saw as the heroes used their quirks on Gentle Criminal as he began to monologue only for his quirk to bounce everything off him and have the blast of the following attack and destroy everything around them. Deku saw piles and piles of stage equipment being blown off and nearly hitting people within the running audience. Deku saw this fight, enjoying what was occurring until he heard a scream. "Koda, get out of here!" Koda? Deku turned to where he heard the scream and saw the same child he met in the forest attack. Damn it, he is here. Deku quickly saw how one of the pillars was about to fall on him, and without a thought, he rushed to grab the child out of the immediate danger. Once he took a hold of Koda, he viewed the child, who instantly saw through his disguise. Izuku. Deku winched to Koda, saying his name. Izuku? Izuku Midoriya. As in Deku. Damn it, as Deku thought this, he turned around to see both the heroes and the villainous duo face him. Well shot. Deku then saw an angry Bakugo, so he quickly began to think of ways to get out of there. As he thought, he saw the villainous duo, and then rushed towards them, going to fake a kick to Gentle, whose quirk manipulated the air in front of him. What he didn't know was that this was what Deku wanted, so when Gentle used his quirk upon the green teen in front of him, Deku enhanced his legs and jumped into a higher space. Bakugo then used his explosions in order to blast himself upon the young villain, who used the explosion to buster himself away from the heroes. Thanks for the extra boost, Bakugo, and good luck you too. Deku, wait. But before Deku could hear any more, the explosion launched him a few meters away from the heroes. With what was happening, most of the heroes in the group then rushed to where Deku was going to land, with Bakugo about to follow, only to be stopped by Aizawa. Don't problem, child. But Izuku, Bakugo protested before he was silenced. No, the pros will deal with him, Aizawa rebutted. Bakugo scoffed at that. He will find a way out of it. Bakugo knew that Deku would find a way out of it, but now was the first time he saw him since the Kamino incident. He knew he had to listen to Aizawa. Haha, well, this was exciting. Hearing the voice, the two turned to see Gentle and La Brava, who then began to run. Well, goodbye, dear heroes. As the two began to run, Aizawa then used his scarf to stop the two as the explosive teen continued to view Mandalay, following the path in which the green teen escaped through. As Deku landed, he saw around him and began to think of how to escape, so as he thinks, he heard a voice below him, Izuku. Koda, Deku forgot that he brought the child with him. Silence, Koda, we are going somewhere. At this point, Deku knew that he couldn't do anything with the kid for the moment, so he was just about to take the child with him. As Deku looked around him, he saw the road. Okay, Koda, we will be leaving now. Deku then, along with Koda, began to move through alleyways in which the heroes would never find them. Once Deku returned to the League hideout, he only saw Eri, Magna, and twice within the base, who turned to him. I'm back. When he entered, the rest of the League at the same time entered the base to see Deku with the child, at which point Shigaraki asked him, Deku, what is with the other kid? Deku turned to see Koda, then his leader. Deku then carefully dropped Koda onto the floor and looked at him. Eri, this is Koda. Once the two children began to talk with each other, he turned to his leader. Long story. From a small medical room, a doctor looked on, seeing a screen of Kurogyari being captured by the police. Normally he would be worried, but the villain did what was asked of him, awakening a giant to come. The doctor smiled at what he saw. We'll time to see, and Shigaraki has what is needed to be AFO's successor. And as he turned to another screen, he saw the image of Deku. And to see if it was right to have you around. The Beast and Doctor. Part 5. Within the small room in which a group of skull-wearing individuals was reuniting, Izuku turned around to see Spinner's look of disdain from looking at the group. Out of everything we've faced, these idiots are somehow the worst. They're bigots, Deku said. Idiots who can't accept that mutant quirk users are people. Toga was hateful to the group. I don't want their blood. Don't worry, Toga, Deku explained. We aren't here for blood. Might gain a little experience. Shigaraki jumped to the room where the group viewed to look at the villainous leader. Afterward, the others jumped down where the group placed a certain focus on Spinner. It's the League of Villains, a member said before turning to see another. The lizard man is with them. Deku didn't need to turn to know how Spinner felt due to the look. At the moment, he just waiting for a response from his leader. Deku turned to see Compress looking at the items as Shigaraki then moved to touch the members of the group. Knowing what that meant, Deku along with the others joined in attacking the group, demolishing them all and ending all their members. As all the members of the group were ended, Deku turned to see the items before taking his breath. Alright, anything of use? Knowing what occurred, Deku helped in removing many of the items before the group moves back to their base, yet from all of this, he noticed the look within Spinner's eyes. Once back in a small abandoned house, Deku turned to see his two children inside as the group brings back their items. For the moment, the League of Villains searched and scavenged from the other criminals in the will to live as they continued to survive. After the UA Festival incident, the League was keeping a low profile and wanted to remain outside of the view of the heroes. Deku knew that taking Koda from the wild hussy cats was risky, but he needed to do it as the moment in which he saw the actions occur, he knew that he would never get another chance. With Koda and Eri now meeting each other, they managed to befriend each other to the point that they are now best friends. As fun as it was to watch the kids play, Deku felt impatient, as at the moment the League was pretty much down in the dumps and nothing interesting was happening. As Deku began to think of something they could do, he was removed from his thoughts by Spinner. I can't take it anymore. All members of the League then turned to face the reptilian villain, who angrily screamed at their leader. Aren't we supposed to be changing society for Stain's ideals? Why are we committing crimes against other villains? We are doing what we can do, we're strapping for cash. Shigaraki was responding to Spinner's rage. Still, if we stayed with Overhaul we could have had more, Mr. Compress explained before being silenced. Don't even joke about that, Compress. Deku turned to Eri to see if she overheard the comment. Just as every member was speaking, Dabi entered the room to see the other members. Am I the only one who is truly finding new members? Aren't you just burning everyone? Did you find new members? Twice asked. Just as Twice responded, Dabi redirected. Everyone is trash. Still doesn't give you the choice to kill useful people. Deku then turned to face Shigaraki. Shigaraki, it has been about a month since Kurogyari got captured searching for All for One's powerful weapon, and since then we lost one of our most powerful. Deku turned to see both Koda and Eri before awaiting Shigaraki's outburst, but it never came as the young teen saw him take out the bullets in his possession. You're right, since Kurogyari failed, not only did we lose him, we lost contact with the doctor guy. As Toga was measuring the necklace she asked. Doctor guy? Deku quickly answered. Toga, he is the guy who makes the nomus. Who cares? Spinner screamed as he neared Shigaraki and held him by his shirt. Why are we here? We should be doing the work of Stain. What do we do now, Shigaraki? Shigaraki then faced Spinner to his eyes. Get your hands off. Just as the leader was talking, the group felt the room shake around them. Deku didn't feel like this was a normal earthquake, so he then quickly turned to face Compress. Compress, the children. Mr. Compress didn't need to hear more as he then placed his hand on Koda and Eri, turning both of them into marbles. After they were marbled, the League of Villains then ran outside to see a behemoth of a monster in front of the shed they were hiding in. When the villains turned to see the creature, they all heard him call upon Shigaraki. "So you are the successor of All for One?" As the villains were confused by the creature, Deku could do nothing but admire the giant and began to think about what his quirk could be. As the villain looked at him, Shigaraki began to talk. "Is this the power?" The monster then began to scream. "You are too weak." The monster then began to smash around the villains, throwing them all around, forcing Magna to use her quirk to unite the villains around. Shigaraki then turned to Deku. "Any ideas?" "We have no idea of what his quirk is, so we can't react in a major way." As Deku began to talk, grey goo then began to come out of the mouths of the villains, teleporting them all upon a laboratory with Nomus all around them. As the villains saw all around them, they heard a voice in front of them. Now, Deku, this must be Shigaraki's victory." The villains turned to see where the voice came from, only to see a shadowy figure sitting in a chair. Seeing the figure, Deku began to step forward. "I am guessing you are the doctor?" As Deku stepped into the doctor's chair and moved him away from the villains, keeping him in the shadows. "Sorry, but I can't let you know me yet." Deku questioned why the doctor wouldn't reveal his face, but at the moment, he didn't care. As the villains looked around themselves, the doctor began to talk to them. "Anyways, I brought you all here because I don't believe that you can be the successor to AFO. Tell me, Shigaraki, what are your plans?" Deku knew that the doctor was waiting for Shigaraki to respond, so he turned to his leader to hear his response. "Everyone has their desires to become the leader of the underworld. What I want is simple, to destroy everything, so you will lend your help to use Doctor." "What about the things I like?" Toga interrupted. Shigaraki then rebutted towards her. "The wishes of my comrades are different, they do as they want." The doctor seemed to contemplate what was told to him. "The desire of yourself and your comrades seems impossible to complete at the same time, but villains bring pipe dreams to life. For now, call me Dr. Izuku." "It was that easy?" Compress asked the alliance of the doctor. "I think it's better to not question it," Deku rebutted as he attempted to decipher the doctor. "My alliance is easy, but Gigantomachia requires more. Here, take these to stay in contact." The doctor then used a robotic arm to give each one of us an earpiece. Dobby took the earpiece as he spoke. "You guys do what you want, I have things to do." "You're mad that you will be useless against the giant," Toga remarked. "Shut up, crazy." Dobby was about to incinerate Toga. "I am still working on the recruit." Dr. Izuku then began to press a few buttons on his keyboard as he spoke. "Well, if you aren't going to fight Gigantomachia, then how about testing out my Hai and Nomu? I know it will fit your taste. Anyways, can you send us back to the mini-boss?" Shigaraki ashes impatiently. "Not yet, your 2 new members, where are they?" Deku turned to Compress as he held out his hand for the marble, at which point Compress gave it to him. "I will need to stay if they are to be released. I don't want the kids to be afraid." The doctor then giggled. "Fairly well, I wanted to talk to you anyways." Compress liberated the children as Deku kneeled to comfort them as the rest of the league went on their way. Once it was just Deku, Izuku, and the children. The young villainous teen then turned his head upward and asked, "What do you want to talk with me?" The doctor responded, "Simple, your work with quirks. There's a project of mine near completion. I want you to be there to analyze it." Deku began to pique interest as he stood up holding both children's arms. "A special sort of Nomu?" "Yes and no." Then Deku smiled as his interest picked in. New mission. During the free time in which the League had fights with Gigantomachia, Dr. Izuku asked the League to bring him someone on who he was experimenting. Deku didn't know why this man was important, but at that moment he asked them all to bring this man to him. He didn't know who this individual was, but he knew that whoever he was important to the doctor due to what was done to him. Deku learned that this man was a type of sentient Nomu who still kept his human-like body. So half of them went to bring the individual to the doctor while Deku, Shigaraki, Toga, Magna and the children were in a shack in which the League was hiding. As the young teen was thinking, the door right into the shack in which the League was hiding entered with Dobby, Compress, twice, and Spinner entering. Deku turned to the group. So, how did it go? Complete bust, heroes were there. Hearing Dabi's responses annoyed Deku as he knew that they failed the mission and that Gigantomachia might awaken any time soon. With this, the green teen expected Shigaraki to be angered at the comment, but instead he saw the leader of the league just stand up and leave the shack. Seeing that, Deku pulled his phone out in order to see if there were any sightings of the individual whom the league was bringing to the doctor. As he was searching for the website, a call came from the doctor. Watch over the children. Deku then began to leave outside in order to respond to the call so that both him and Shigaraki could listen. Shigaraki, Deku, what happened? Shigaraki responded. Heroes, they knew about the transfer. The doctor's calm demeanor quickly broke. Impossible, the path was a secret. Deku began to wonder as he asked one question. Who knew of the path? I mean Spinner, Dabi, and Compress sure, but did anyone else know? Izuku then sat silent for a moment before responding. A small trio knew. They were loyal to my experiment. This brought evidence to Deku's theory. He wanted to leave us. Deku then pulled out his phone in order to search anything involving a trio of villains. As he kept on searching, Deku found out that there was an attack on a man currently a few hours ago. I think I might know where this individual was. When morning came, Shigaraki and Deku both arrived at a crime scene. They discovered a wreckage in which a car was flipped upside down with heroes searching the region. Deku looked at the heroes and destruction. I am guessing that this was the trio and the doctor's experiment. As the two villains looked at the disaster, Shigaraki heard from the doctor as he turned to Deku. Keep looking for the experiment, I have to return to the boss fight. Deku heard as he then walked down the street wearing a dark overcoat as he thought of where they could go. If I was a Noma-powered man with my own group of followers, where would I go? As Deku thought where the experiment could go, he called upon Dr. Izuku. Doctor, small question, the guy who was attacked, what can you tell me about him? The doctor quickly responded. Just your average man, basic life, father of 2 children, he has a cellular control quirk. Cellular control quirk? Deku then thought back to what was told about the man, that he was a sentient type of Nomu. The experiment, you told me that he was a Noma-like experiment, what quirks did you give him? Izuku remained silent for a while as he then responded. A copy of All for One. A copy of AFO, Deku gasped hearing that. He knew that the doctor had his methods of using different quirks to create his Noma, but using a copy of AFO just sounded insane. A copy of AFO, I'm guessing that he doesn't have a regeneration quirk. No, he doesn't. The doctor remained silent for a while as he then continued to talk. The cellular quirk only works with certain blood type A. Deku sighed. And I am guessing you're telling me this because his blood type is an A? Correct, he responded. But the man who was attacked, he has a son with the same quirk but capable to type A, B, and L. Hearing this showed Deku who the man would attack next, so the young teen then asked one final question. Where does the child live? Nabu Island, a nice vacation spot, but for the young villainous teen this was nothing but a job to find a villain with the power of AFO. Deku walked upon the city and he whispered to himself. Now, if I was a villain with a copy of AFO attempting to find a child with a quirk who could help me, what would I do? Just as Deku was walking upon the city, he then felt shaking upon the ground, causing the young teen to turn around and see that the mall which he passed was being attacked by a red-wrapped man. Seeing this caused Deku to run to a safe distance and watch what began to occur. As Deku saw the man attack the region, he began to mumble to himself. If I am lucky, this man might be one of the villains who I am searching for. Deku watched what occurred until he saw a group of Heroes students jump in and fight the red villain. Deku turned to see the students as he noted who was who. Aoyama, the one with the laser coming from his navel, Mineta, one with sticky balls coming from his head, and I am guessing those floating gloves and boots to be Hagakure. This should be fun. Deku then saw how the group attempted to fight the villain, but in time lost as Hagakure was wrapped upon the red cloth and Mineta and Aoyama's quirks gave in to themselves. Just as it seemed to be the end for the Heroes students, a voice called upon the villain, Die. Deku didn't have to guess who was coming as he saw Bakugo along with Kirishima and Kaminari joining the fight. Deku watched as the villain began to fight Bakugo and his allies by wrapping items around himself and bringing them to life, using them as an army to charge upon the three. Bakugo managed to use his explosions to blow up all the items while Kaminari electrified them, and Kirishima just punched them. Seeing the villain, Deku saw how he watched him wrap Bakugo up and prepared to fight the other two. Time for my reveal. Deku then launched himself downward, grabbing the heads of both Kirishima and Kaminari, and smashed them both upon the ground. Deku then turned upon the villain as he then spoke up. Sorry, don't wrap me up, I am Deku of the League of Villains. I know who you are. Deku turned an eye upon the villain. 9 worked with your doctor. 9, good to know a name. Deku then continued his speech. Well, I want to see your leader again. The heroes attacked us, I want to know that we are still here. As Deku talked, out of the corner of his eye he saw the cloth-like item near him. Alright, so I want to know where 9 is so that we can bring him back to the league. So as Deku talked, he acted like he didn't know what was occurring, so when the rags neared him he jumped upon the air, landing behind the red villain. That you for using your quirk upon me helps to prove my theory. Deku grabbed the sword from his back as he then used it to cut the cloth holding Bakugo. Once the angry blonde was released, he was enraged until he noticed Deku behind the red-wrapped villain, causing him to point at the two and release an explosion upon both of them. Once the remaining smoke cleared, Bakugo looked around to only see the red villain and not Deku. Ah, better luck next time, Bakugo. The blonde then turned around to see where the voice was coming from, only to miss him. Damn it. Bakugo then saw Deku jumping away, causing him to explode towards the green teen. Izuku, stop, I want to talk with you. Deku looked at the blade he took, seeing the reflection showing how the blonde was still following. Why, so that you could arrest me? No thanks. Deku jumped diagonally in order to avoid Bakugo from getting him. Bakugo then blew himself ahead of Deku and began to lead him outside of the town, leading the green villain into the outskirts of the town into the grassy plains. Just as Bakugo was rushing in, he managed to come and tackle Deku into the ground right in the way between a tall man and 2 children. What is this? The tall man then looked at the 2 in front of him. Once Deku looked above him, he saw he believed was 9. Seeing him, Deku used the sword he took to slice Bakugo and began to jump away as the attack landed on Bakugo. As Bakugo avoided the attack and rushed at 9, Deku saw the 2 children in front of him and took them as far from the scene as possible. Once night came, Deku, who was carrying the children, began to walk outside the location in which the UA students were in. If he knew anything, it was that the hero students probably thought that these villains wanted the children. Deku could suspect as much as he waited for them to come. The green teen stared at the sky, beginning to lose himself in his thoughts. 9 betrayed the league. He wants a Regan quirk. He will hunt down the kid with her quirk. I must get to him before 9 does. Deku turns to the children. Okay, so do you 2 have parents, or someone I could take you to? The girl then responded. We want to see our dad. Okay, where is he? Deku didn't want to bring these 2 along with him, as he already had enough children with Kota and Aries, so all he needed to do was mold them for the time being. The girl then faced her brother, showing that both don't know. Deku scoffed. Okay, so just stay here, then I'll find you 2 a place for the meantime. The boy then turned to face him. Are you a hero? They didn't know who he was. This was good for him. No. Deku didn't need time to respond. I am not a hero. I was just attacked by the student hero you saw. I am just a normal guy. Good, the girl remarked. Heroes failed to save us. Heroes failed to save me. Deku smiled as he sat down with the children as they fell asleep upon one another. The young villainous teen then pulls the sword he stole from the red villain and points it upward. Who knows, I might get another healer and a strong illusionist for the future. Deku then stood up as he looked at the only entrance and began thinking of methods to find the villain. Well, 9, we will now meet again. The battle against 9. As day came forth, Deku began to strategize on how to defeat 9 and his crew. Deku's hiding spot among the ruins of the city wasn't going to last long. If 9 defeated the UA kids, then he would just find and kill him. Deku knew that he needed to think smart. 9 had a copy of AFO, so it would be impossible to know what quirks he has in his possession, plus including his allies, that is more unpredictable. The only knowledge which Deku knew at the moment was that 9's original quirk was weather manipulation, as well as a quirk which allows him to analyze a quirk, and the all-for-one quirk. There are the remaining 6 quirks which he doesn't know. Deku then looked upon the pathway in which the hero's students were located. I hope that 9 and his allies believe the children to be with the UA students. Deku then turned upon the students' hiding place, and just as he was wondering what was occurring down there, 9 and his allies came forth. Deku hoped that the students could at least neutralize 9 long enough to end him permanently, but he needed to be patient. Within the abandoned factory, the UA students were keeping talking among each other in order to figure out their next move. As the students talked among themselves, most of them could hear the screams of their angry explosive boy. "Let me go, shitty hair, he knows where Deku is." "No, he doesn't, Bakugo, he won't talk." Kirishima attempted to prevent the arrogant blonde from nearing the villain. Bakugo scoffed at the comment. "Lies, he just needs a little more motivation." "Bakugo, you can't just rush off to take on Deku." Ida rushed his arms through the explosive teen. "He is a dangerous member of the League of Villains, he should not be taken lightly." Ida remembered him through his fight with Stain, and how much of a challenge he was. "I don't care." Bakugo screamed towards his classmate before he looked down to his feet, silently whispering to himself. "It's my fault he's like this." Bakugo then left the room filled with his classmates, as he then left to be alone with his thoughts. Bakugo reminisces about his time with Izuku. The first time he saw him was after entering UA, was during the sports festival, when he came forth with that blonde girl. At first he was confused as to why Izuku would bring a random girl with himself, and the fact that he found her tipped him off, as he thought that Izuku couldn't make any friends by himself, so having him there with a random chick was off. When the nerd left without telling him goodbye or good job was even weirder, as he was always complimenting him. Yet the worst came during the Stain incident, as Bakugo heard from his mother that Izuku left his mother after Stain was arrested, which was strange as Izuku would never leave Inko. She was one of the sweetest women alive. He found this as odd as the explosive teen couldn't wonder why the nerd would leave his mother. Yet the worst came during his kidnapping, as that was when he met again with Izuku, learning that he was with the League of Villains. Once this information was given back to Inko, it broke her. Bakugo heard from his mother on how the green-haired woman was devastated and emotionally broken when she learned that Izuku became a villain. His mother visited Inko more often in order to keep her in a better state, yet he knows that the only thing which will help her will be reuniting with Izuku. Bakugo was rendered apathetic for the moment as the students felt a rumble upon them. Moving quickly and without time, the UA kids saw a villain trio coming upon them, leaving the students to have to attack the villains. Upon their arrival, Momo quickly created cannons in order to blast the villains away. Upon seeing 9 and his allies near the hero students, Deku saw this as his opportunity to defeat 9, as he hoped that the students would be able to deal blows which would end the villains. Deku watched as the hero students went against the villains, as 9's 2 companions quickly separated in order to fight against the students. Deku watched from afar as the UA students fought against the villains with the animal-looking guy battering shot, and most of the students, while the female battles against Tokoemi and a pink-haired girl. Deku watched the battle from afar, thinking of how he could bring the tides of the fights into his favor. So he watched as the hero's students attempted to fight them off. With good planning, Deku thought that the students could defeat the 2 villains, yet with 9 that might be a lot difficult to do. Deku then knew that he might need to deal with the villain himself, so he would need to deal with 9 himself. The green teen then turned to the 2 children behind him. "Wait here, they will not know you're here, so don't move against me or someone you know comes back." The 2 children nodded as they rushed back into the ruins of the city. Once they were gone, he jumped towards the battlefield as he went straight for 9, as he was the most dangerous, just not to him, but the mission of the entire league. He followed the larger group of students along with Bakugo fight against 9, only for one by one be defeated and thrown aside, throwing away all signs of this being an easy victory out of the window. Deku watched as Bakugo rushed at 9 and failed over and over as he attempted to blow up the villain, to the point where he launched one of his gauntlets at the villain, where he was instantly blown away, but 9 didn't react. Deku then saw Bakugo was thrown away as 9 then looked at the building, as he then began to walk and attempt to find the children. Damn it, Deku knew that 9 wouldn't find the children there, so he needed to quickly deal with 9 so that he would search elsewhere. Deku then enhanced his legs in order to rush 9 by surprise as he then kicked the villain, knocking out his mask, revealing his face. The villain looked at the young teen as rage filled his eyes. "You. Hey 9, right?" Deku then took an offensive position as he was ready to fight him. "You should have not double-crossed the league." Deku then began his fight against 9 as he attempted a kick towards the villain, only to be blocked when a force field formed in front of the villain. "Damn it. What quirks does he have?" Deku then jumped back as he then saw Bakugo explode himself behind 9 as he attempted to explode 9 unconscious, only for the villain to expunge a blue dragon-like creature from his back and having that creature bite upon Bakugo. Deku internally screamed as he hoped Bakugo could do the dirty work. "Damn it, Bakugo, can't you be helpful for once in your life?" Deku then began to keep a distance from 9 as the villain used his fingers to launch energy beams as another blue dragon head was launched towards the green teen. Deku had little time as he had to quickly react against both the energy beams and the creature barely avoiding their grasp. "Damn it, damn it, damn it, I only have this one chance to defeat him." Deku for the first time in years didn't know what to do or how to react against him. Deku then watched Bakugo attempt to blow himself off the creature as he thought for a way to think of how to defeat 9. At the moment, Deku saw that 9 was far more powerful than he anticipated as more and more attacks were coming at him. Soon the teen was overrun and captured by the other Hydra head, being rendered immobile. Deku then remembered the countless times he was with those he loved. His mother, Eri, Koda, Shigaraki, the League, Toga. He wouldn't fail them. He wouldn't let 9 win. 9 must fall. He must defeat 9.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.